5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Steve, how you doing, man?
Fine. How are you? Good to see you.
Good, good.
Good to be on the show finally.
Yeah, I'm getting used to the Joe Rogan approach here. So
Yeah, nice.
trying to make it a little
Hey,
smoother.
he set a good precedent how to make a successful podcast. So he would be somebody that would be wise to follow.
I mean, he's a great host. I look
Yeah,
at the
absolutely.
caliber of people that are on his show,
Yeah.
and I aspire to be like that one day, to be able to
Yeah.
have some crazy people on there. Actually, I was just talking to Chris Lokes. He has his own podcast. I was telling him because he has the name Hotep Khan, and it's kind
Okay.
of based off Hotep Jesus. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
right.
follow
Yeah.
him, right?
Well,
I
yeah.
told him, I was like, yeah, you got to have him on the podcast someday. He's like, I don't know if he'd ever be on my podcast. I'm like, you got to have that idea that
Yeah,
you can
right.
get to
You
that
got to
point.
believe it to conceive
Right,
it.
right. I mean, I still can't believe I'm doing a podcast like this, much
Right.
less doing it shittily. But I know I'm gonna be better eventually. So
Yeah, it just feels like it's an era of people discovering what their inner passions are and going for it.
yeah, actually, it's
That's what it
funny.
feels like to me.
I'm at my parents' house right now, and my dad, he made like a quick tongue-in-cheek joke. He's just like, "Yeah, go be a journalist." Like when I was going to
Hey,
do a live stream, I was like, "Journalist?" He's like, "Yeah,
no.
yeah, journalist." I'm like, is that kind of what I'm doing? I guess I don't know.
I mean, it could be to a degree because you are doing some investigating and reporting on some feelings of
It's like
different
it's
people.
some
That's
news
news to
analysis.
me.
It's like news analysis. What
Right,
I'm kind of
yeah,
trying to do.
right.
But yeah, I don't know. I look at this as kind of like infotainment. It's like,
I think this is the new era, actually. I think
yeah,
this is the big, that's why everything's changing so fast. You know, everything keeps exponentially getting faster and faster.
oh, big
And
time.
just like the microchip in the computer, same
Hmm.
idea. So the same thing with the consciousness of the internet has created another artificial intelligence almost.
Yes,
And now that's feeding and a central hub, so to speak. It could be
yes.
looked at as like the Eye Taurus or whatever.
Right, right, right.
So
Yeah,
it's
no, the Eye of Sauron going all the way up.
Sour. That's right. I
Yeah.
can always remember
Well,
what his
the
name
thing
is.
is,
I have a tattoo, but I don't remember what it's called.
I
But I know about the
I saw
eye.
your tattoo. Yeah, I didn't. I don't think I saw that since last time.
Yeah, yeah, I've had that one now. When I was getting it, my tattoo artist Chris Klee, who does most of my work, he did
Yeah,
a great job on it. He mentioned, "How about we do this eye from the Lord of the Rings movie?" I
right.
go, "Oh, that's
That's
perfect."
fantastic. And you have it right on the
And
inside of your left
right in the
arm.
pit. It's a pit,
That's
man. That's
cool.
like, and I'm left-handed, so kind of
Oh,
symbolic.
even better.
Yeah.
That I
So
love the symbology there. But actually, you mentioned the Eye of Horus. It is based off the same concept
right.
of the
How
all-seeing
about how you
eye.
slice?
Right. I think the Eye of Horus, same concept. And
You can't hide. That's why they're suppressing so much. Not to get off track and where we want to go with the
yeah, yeah,
conversation, but that's why they're suppressing. That's why they're trying to put the clamps on. They're deplatforming Alex Jones. They're deplatforming Paul Watson. They're deplatforming Laura Loomer. All these different voices that are kind of pushing the narrative. Hey, look behind the curtain a little bit.
yeah.
Anybody that tries to do that, if they get the least bit fringy, to try to suggest that there might be something else to look at, then they target them and say, "Oh, you can't possibly allow that to be on there," and then they start to squeeze
Well,
everything else.
it kind of reminds me of the ending of The Wizard of Oz. You know, it's like I think we're slowly and
Yeah,
surely seeing what's behind the veil of
right.
the man running the
Oh
machine.
yeah.
And
And it's pushing the Donald Trump is pushing the envelope to make
big
this
time.
happen faster. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. Whether you love him, hate him, or are indifferent to him, which I don't know how you could be, but whatever it is, he
Yeah.
is pushing the envelope to make this conversation happen
Yeah.
more. And especially because he's using Twitter so much, it's
Yes.
opening up the whole thing. Hey, it's driving people to social media that maybe weren't like. It almost reminds me of how, not to get off track, but it's related
No, go
since
for
you're a
it.
video game guy.
Yeah, yeah.
The Nintendo Wii went a different direction than the PS4, and the PS and the Xbox One or whatever.
Yeah.
They went
The
for
conventional
gaming
consoles.
fun, right? So, but they blew everybody away
Yeah.
because their graphics weren't that great,
No.
but they reached more people than ever before because they went an unconventional route. Old people were playing it.
Yes.
People that never picked
Well,
up video games before played
and
it.
they listened to their fans.
Right,
They
right,
went
exactly.
with all the features the fans wanted. They went with where people are going, not what the company wants people to do. Which I think that's going to be a huge predictor of success for any company in this
Right. You
new
gotta be in
internet
touch
era.
with what's going on. You
You
gotta be
can't
listening.
Yeah, you can't be just doing what you think is right for the customer. This is an era where information moves so quickly. If you're not providing what your customer already wants before they know it, sometimes ironically, you
Yeah.
know, you're
No,
you're, you're already
I
behind
came
the eight
from a
ball.
corporate world that was like that corporate job, and I won't even
Yeah,
go into it at all. But
yeah.
they were very, they weren't listening and paying attention to what the customer wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And there was several of us there that knew because we were intimate with the customer, so to
Right.
speak, talking to them every day. So we are like your troops on the ground saying, "Hey, listen, Sarge, we got this issue. We need this. We need that. We need this." And the top generals are saying, "No, we don't believe
Yeah,
that. We have
yeah.
our own theories." And if you look at that anywhere, no matter if it's in the military, if it's in business, it's in a relationship, however you look at it, if you're not in touch with what's going on and not willing to be wrong, you set yourself up for failure every time.
It's funny. One of the questions I had for you, failure is one of the biggest things. One of the guests I had on, he wishes more people would be in tune with the idea of failure.
Yeah, because it teaches you lessons, and that's kind
Big
of like
time.
what's been going on. Like a lot of this is about trying. It to me is, and this whole it's funny. This topic we're going to drive to this direction maybe a little bit is the idea of experience versus success.
Yes.
Success comes from experience, and you can't have experience if you're not allowed to fail.
Right.
And failure is absolutely a great motivator and a great teacher.
Yes.
And you only is a real failure in the true sense of the word failure when you don't learn from what didn't go right.
Yes.
And you
No,
can't learn
I'm
that
with
if
you
you're not
100%.
willing to admit that you're wrong and you make mistakes. And that's what it's all about, is protecting this
Well, a small
thing that doesn't make
microcosm for
sense.
that I've brought up a couple times on the podcast already. This you're my fourth of the week, so this has been a lot of fun.
Good
One-
number, and I'm 4.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then I'm a little more prepared for talking to you now after doing these last three.
Oh, cool.
But I was going to say one of the microcosms for failure I find, especially in my generation, is the willingness to try to cook. Because I've had people say, "Oh, you're a good cook." I'm like, I'm only a good cook because I've failed. I've tried. I've
Right.
definitely
I've made a lot of flops.
I've thrown out stuff before.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the only way you get there.
Right.
Because I think part of
Some
it.
people have a knack for things. There's no doubt about that.
But I think
if
with
you don't
social
try,
media, it's
yeah.
almost worse. People see these perfect recipes people are making.
Right.
They're posting these perfect.
Right.
And the people who aren't trying or afraid to try are just like, oh, you know what? I'll just leave it to them. It's like, no, screw
No.
up.
That's why.
Try
that's
making
why
something you think you can't
this-
make.
That's why, see, that all connects to victimhood mentality.
Yes.
That whole thing,
yes.
which is what the whole struggle is.
Yes.
The whole struggle is being a victim or owning your existence.
Victor. Being the
Victor
victor.
or
Yeah.
very well put. Victim
yeah.
or victor. You own your existence, but by doing that, you have to admit faults for the mistakes that you made.
Yes.
And people don't want to do that. They want to hang on to the story of what has gone wrong in their life and how they can't
play
get around.
they'd rather play the blame game.
Right. Somebody else, well, that's still a victim thing. I'm
Oh,
a victim
yeah,
of
yeah.
you. You did something to me. Somebody did something to me. I'm not responsible for
I'm
all
with
my
you.
woes.
At the end of the day, I will err on the side of putting too much blame on myself. If I can't
Right.
figure out where the blame lies, I was
Well,
like,
there's
you know
a
what, screw it.
balance.
I probably did something wrong here. I probably said something wrong to get this person to act
Listen,
that way. It's
Good.
not,
And
you know
go
what I mean?
ahead. What do you lose by doing that?
You lose
That's the
nothing.
problem.
You
Right,
only
gain
gain
everything.
you gain responsibility. You gain
Right.
efficacy. You gain this sense that you have an influence on your world around you that is divine. It's always been
Right.
there.
It's absolutely. If you can't see the
Come-
miracle that is around you every day, you're missing out. You're really missing out. You're
yeah.
living a really weird, cold, distant, shallow, gray, gloomy lifestyle. And you're
Well,
the
I'm
one
not
that's gonna
perfect. I
suffer.
still fight with it, but yeah, I'm with you
Of course,
100%.
and that's okay, but there's a balance section.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if you get too far to one side or the other, it doesn't matter if you get too much, everything goes, peace and love, everybody come on in, or nothing, it must be this way, or you're going this to hell, or this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Neither one of those sides work for life. They're not practical. They're
Right.
extremists. You have to understand human nature, and if you don't understand yourself, how can you possibly understand anybody else? And so if you're not willing to look at yourself and be wrong and understand why you make your decisions, then you're not willing to understand anybody else, so you're going to constantly flex all the time
Yes.
to protect yourself with a shield and a sword, as I like to
you're
put it.
protecting insecurities
Nothing.
you find
Yeah, right.
that aren't even
Right.
necessarily
Foster.
insecurities. That was oh
Right.
my god.
Right,
I've spent
right,
years
right.
trying to figure that out myself. I'm
Well, you know
glad
what
you put it well.
happens-
You put it into good words.
Different. Okay, well, thank you. But here's the thing. The reason I know this is because no offense to anybody, but I grew up in a very not good household, and
I
it was
find a lot of
very
people have, you know.
mine, yeah. Well, you know why? Because their parents didn't teach them well,
Right.
and they didn't have the understanding to fix and correct it because they didn't have a long enough life to have enough experiences to come to understanding that they could control their problems that have been happening to them. So they weren't able to apply it going forward. So they made the same mistakes their parents made, and it was up.
Yes.
It's up to all of us to, when we come conscious of it, put a stop to it, so we
Yes.
don't continue the behavior going
And
forward.
that
And
itself is where we heal, I think, as a
all
society.
everything. That's what
Everyone
love is.
heals when we can move on, when you can stop the blame game, like you said,
Right. Shake
understand what the
hands.
right thing to do is,
Right.
and without trying to have any retribution for what was done, to just make it better.
You know what people get caught up in is wanting to have some sort of
Yeah.
vengeance that you suffer the way they feel they have suffered.
Reparations, yeah.
And now you'll feel my pain, and now
Yeah.
you'll see what it feels like. Not having the decency to understand. Well, how do you know that the person doesn't feel your pain
Yeah.
and doesn't, just because they don't agree with what you're going for to clean your pain, to heal your pain, doesn't mean that they don't understand pain and what it
Or
means, and
that
they
they're
don't
genuinely trying to
appreciate yours.
help, or even that they're
Right,
genuinely
all
trying to
right,
help.
all
Like,
right,
I
all
don't
right.
need to empathize with you
Right.
to try
Right.
to solve your problem. That's also the dumbest thing. It's like, what does
Right,
me
right,
having the same level of suffering
right. I
help you
don't need
dig you
to.
out of your
Right. No.
suffering? It doesn't. There's no part of that situation where I need to be in your shoes.
Well, sometimes, well, I think people need to realize something very key is that we,
Yeah.
each other human entity is the universe's feedback to you.
Yes. Oh,
And you can,
I'm well aware
and
of that.
sometimes it comes from an agenda base. Sometimes it comes from a pure base, and it's up to you as the one getting the feedback to make a general conclusion after you've listened to a lot of feedback, which ones were agenda based and which ones were pure based, and to address the pure based feedback and go, maybe there's something there that I could work on and fix and change about myself that would make my life better. Because that's what it's about, really making your own well-being to a place where you're happy. You can't solve everybody else's problem, but it's
No.
your
And I think
happiness.
there's a lot of people that suffer because of that. That little tidbit you dropped
Ugh,
at the end is people carry around other people's
they
weight.
wear it, right? They wear it
Yeah.
because really it comes to individual responsibility. And if we have to push that narrative, is that we're all individually responsible for ourselves. And
And we
even
get
if
to
people get
choose.
a bad lot in life, they get born into a situation that's
Yeah.
rough and tough. I get that, but you don't understand other people's, just because they're a different color, a different gender, a different culture, they
Right.
have their own suffering. It's equal to me.
It
It's
is.
equal to, it doesn't matter your version, their version.
It's not a
Quit worrying about
competition.
your version. Right.
It's not a
So
competition.
I acknowledge people have been wronged in this, but I'm telling you, you're in the best atmosphere possible to resurrect a whatever lifestyle you got stuck with, you got given to you as a child when you got born into it. Because that's what it comes down to. You're born into a situation,
Well,
and you're handed this. So what do you do with it?
I want to segue this into our first
Okay,
question, because
sounds
actually
good.
we're heading in that direction in the first place.
I don't
So
want to be the people that get too talky.
I think it's a good problem. That's one of the reasons I want
That's
to
right.
have you on. And I just want to shorten the leash a little bit, if you don't mind. Then we
Good.
can get
Oh,
back.
absolutely.
Once we get through my 6 questions, we can go wherever we want.
Sounds
I just
good.
kind of want to get them in the first half of this. So
Do it.
the first question I have is the idea of law and order. We've been talking recently about the idea of there being disorder, obviously, in people's lives. That suffering causes disorder can cause suffering to people.
Right.
Do you think that law and order is derived from the concept is derived from the state, of people making an organization, or through a divine concept like God?
Well, that's okay. Let me answer that this way. It's a good question. Some people theorize that there is no such thing as law and order in the universe, and it's a total random chaos. And I just don't think that's possible. That makes no sense to me.
No.
Everything has symmetry to it. Everything has numerology to it, and all those things is just us as as observers, which the universe has created through its own divine process.
Yes.
whatever this driving force is that makes everything run, that makes lights turn on, that make the computer work, us work. That force is the binding glue of everything. So that is run on a process. Like, for instance, an apple tree produces an apple because of its structure and its makeup and its order and its.
Well, I think
otherwise
I'm big into Taoism, and I think the the first line of the Tao Te Ching actually summarizes it perfectly. It's one of the reasons that got me into it as a religious book in the first place. It says the Tao that can be named is not the divine Tao.
Right. Yeah. It
The
has
moment
no
you
name.
try, the moment you try
It.
explaining divinity,
Yeah.
you've already lost the concept because it's not something
Exactly.
that can be. It's something that it's experienced. It's a lived experience.
Well, this is what I've learned in life.
And I think
That
art
is
is. I just
a
want to
lot
chime
of
in.
things.
Art.
Go
I
ahead,
think.
continue.
I just want to chime in one thing. I think art is us trying to explain that. That's why I think art
Yes.
can be so different.
Every expression is us trying to explain all of this.
It's all right. None of it's
It's
incorrect
absolutely
either.
correct. Absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct, and that's a hard concept for some people to capture. Is
Yes.
that it is okay because it's all. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be.
Right.
And that's where it comes down to law and the order of the system.
Right.
You exist how you exist because how the universe exists in general, or how a star is in the sky. It's not saying if that star wasn't in a place you wouldn't exist as you are. I mean, you wouldn't exist. You would just exist differently.
Well, there's some
because
astrologists who
everything's
would
linked.
correct you, and there's some astrologists who'd say you're wrong there.
Well, I disagree because it's all linked back and forth. That's what the infinite is.
Yes.
That's the infinite loop.
I'm with you.
The tangible world that we see and the intangible world that we don't see, and the whole thing is the thing that you cannot name.
Right. Exactly.
Which
And
is
that's
not a whole thing. It's infinite.
You're describing a system within
Right.
infinite systems. And
Right.
You're trying to. You're just going to sit there forever trying to explain it all.
Yeah, right. And well, that's why, because it's predicated on the law, which is what the law is, by a divine something created a law, because otherwise these things wouldn't know what to do.
Well,
and they have an intelligence about them. Everything has an intelligence about it.
I want to drop a nugget on you before we move forward. I don't know how well versed you are on some of the concepts of Carl Jung, because that's what I've been kicking around lately.
I've read a lot of his work, and not a whole bunch, but
I don't want to get deep into it. But his like base principle is the idea that we as a person individually are constantly at odds with a collective subconscious of man, but we're all kind of talking to it from different angles. And he talks about the idea of archetypes. And we're constantly fighting with the archetype of a father, a mother, a whatever. And it's within ourselves sometimes, and sometimes it's external. But you're constantly in these, you said, like, balance paradigms.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to.
Well, that's the nudge of everything.
Right.
That's basically what comes down to, the nudge, the push. I like to call it the push.
The push.
Because
Okay.
like, if you go back to the whole principle of singularity.
Yes. Yeah.
And the idea that something split, the split, the divide, the energy that moves it, that's the whole push. That's the rascality of how Alan Watts puts it.
Yes.
Of what it's the salt in the stew. Too much of it and it spoils the stew. Just enough and it makes it taste perfect. Yeah. And that's what it is. But if no salt, it tastes bland. That's what this whole dryness on
Goldilocks.
The one side, right side, is this sterile dryness, and on the left side, too much salt, mother hunter.
Yeah,
you can't
put
that
eat
much in.
Yeah,
you can't eat it.
It's
you make it
ruined
not
now.
palatable.
Yeah.
So I think that human nature in general prevails with its own sense of law and order based on these principles in general, because you're part of it. You don't have a choice not to. You can deny it, and you can get misled and pulled into the one side or the other side, which is, I think, what that push-pull is. It's pulling you from one side to the next. And it's that whole thing Carl Jung talked about. It's the same idea. It's the pull. And that's what we're fighting against. Sometimes we resist it, sometimes we don't, and that's what causes the sine and cosine wave to balance in the center.
Right.
That's what it is.
And to cross within each other.
Right. Exactly.
Equal and opposite waves.
Right.
Yes. So, sine and cosine are brilliant.
So one thing I don't want to miss before we move to the next question is the law and order that says when you put certain elements together, it will change it to some other elements that you can now put together. So you're an alchemist, basically.
Right.
We're all alchemists. The whole universe is alchemy.
Yes.
And we only understand this from the point of the physical realm. We think we have ideas about whatever the other realm is, but we have to have a transformation happen and alchemy to happen within ourselves in order to see the next realm. And that's what you're fighting for here is your alchemy of you. Change you
Well, here's to
so you can see it.
to the Law and Order question.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things here is, and actually, before I was about to make a judgment call off you, but I want to give you a chance.
Okay.
I'd asked you, would you say it's the state? Is it the realm of man that determines what morality is, or is it a realm outside of ourselves that does?
It's what the thing that cannot be named.
Okay. So I'd say that it's the thing that cannot be named. That's
Yeah.
the
If
God
you want to call it
side, the
divinity,
esoteric.
call it God. I call
But
it whatever you want to call it. It's that thing that can. That's where it comes from.
okay,
Yes.
then we're talking the same language. I just didn't want to assume because
Yeah.
it sounds like that's what you're working
No,
to.
no, I'm glad that no, we're on the same page there. And we are of it, and it's only our denial of us of being of it that causes the conflict and causes our situations of
Oh yeah.
suffering.
Yeah. That being said, is I do think that there is a truth. That's what a lot of religion talks about, and I do think that there is an issue right now, because we talked before. I was atheist for a long time. I was very cynical and nihilist about the world, but I found that just in believing there is a singularity, and believing there's a divine plan, a divine flow, a divine concept that I cannot control, that I'm just along for the ride of, that to me was a better way of looking at life. Whether or not, and this is the thing I struggle with
Relative.
people, is, well, I tell people my point of view, and some people think it's a little sanctimonious, a little preachy, and I'm like, listen, that's your ego telling you I'm preaching.
Yeah.
Do you understand your own gears turning? Because I'm telling you what I'm doing because it betters me. And the moment you think that I'm trying to make you feel bad, is you trying to make yourself feel bad first, because it didn't even enter my mind.
Right, exactly. People take things when you take something personal, that shows that you actually have an emotional attachment to it. And to me,
people defend things emotionally more than they do rationally.
Right, and it's easy. Listen, okay, let's just say this really quickly. When you're born, the first thing you do is cry.
Yes.
It's the easiest emotion to have is to go, ah! Okay? You got it from the get-go. It's up to us as a thinking, unbelievably intelligent human being to go, I don't need to cry about everything.
I've never heard it put like that. Oh, Steve,
Right?
Steve, I'm clipping that.
Have it, but it's you don't need to, so you can let things go. Not everything needs a reaction. Also, and the reaction you put on it is up to you. Now, listen, I tumble in the weeds with people on Twitter and that about shit.
Oh yeah.
But I'm doing it. I'm rolling with the dogs that get the fleas. I know what I'm going to get myself into. So if it upsets me or gets me irritated, that's a good process. I use it as an opportunity to challenge myself.
Yes.
So I can.
That's what I was about to say, because I'm sure you've seen my conversations as well.
Oh yeah, you poked the bear many times. I love it.
Well, sometimes I need. That's the way I look at it. Is I look at these people I interact with as just nature. It's just the universe. These aren't people I'm going to meet. You know what I mean?
I really don't hate anybody or anything, no matter how vile they are, actually, because I accept it as part of nature.
Right.
I'm actually part of that. I can't hate myself because that's hating me. Not that I would
I was about to say
the
same thing. Like, if you go back to that initial burden of responsibility thing, it's like this person exists in my country potentially, and it's my duty at the end of the day to try to make.
Right.
I'm not going to say be evangelical, but you still want that common
decorum. Olive branch
decorum
mentality. I'm okay with that. I really am. But I got to tell you, I also don't feel any sympathy for anybody gets caught in the law and order of what makes this what it is.
Yes.
That's what makes this what it is. If you want to come here to enjoy what this is and reap the fruits of what it is, it's done by law and order.
Yes.
And if you want to now negate the law and order and enjoy the fruits, you can't have that. It's one or the other.
You can't have the rights without the responsibility, is the way people would say.
If you want the loosey-goosey, go back to wherever you were leaving from, because that's what created that situation.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is,
no law and order.
I try to align myself or stand shoulder to shoulder with people who also see it that way, not people who are trying to, like you said, people who aren't oppressed, people aren't victims. Like, if you're constantly feeling oppressed, you're constantly lashing out against nature, not being in commune with it.
The problem, I think, it's about the whole idea, I'll just say this briefly, is that it's about gratitude and appreciation. And if you have things too good and you have too much money, it actually gives you a platform to complain about everything
it
and
does.
find things to complain about. and where everybody else is, like I mean, like a Colin Kaepernick, where you're making millions of dollars, and
Yeah.
you're gonna stick your stupid face out there with the, and you're gonna call cops pigs, and you're gonna, because of there are incidents, yeah, no, but do you need to like spit on the whole country in the process? It's like it's
Yeah.
such a selfish, egotistical, and people want to complain about Trump's ego. Well, here's other people being just as egotistical, and you support them. So you
Yeah.
know what? Kiss my ass.
That
How I
I'm
feel
with you.
about that.
Well, the funny thing is I see Colin Kaepernick as a two-headed monster. One,
Yeah, it's fine.
ultimately at the end of the day, I agree with your side, but partly I think there's a lot of people who are ignorant to some of the stuff going on with cops. I've seen too
Right.
many cop videos. I'm like, how is this happening?
Oh, I know. No, there is.
You know,
Trust me, it's out of control in some
and, well,
areas.
and just
And
in that light, Colin is actually highlighting an issue that some people might
but
be
you can
ignorant to.
do it in a different way
Yes,
than
and
what
that's what I
you
was
do.
going to
That's
follow
all.
up with. That's what I was going to
Right.
follow up
That's
with.
all. That's all. I mean, I listen. I'm freedom of speech, and I'm also free for team owners to not want him as a liability. I'm also
Yeah.
free for people not to buy his merchandise. I'm
Yes.
also for the freedom of people to say we think he's an asshole. So if he has a free of speech to say what he wants to say, then
Fuck
everybody
him.
else can do what they want to
Yeah.
say. So everybody can
If
just
you
fuck
want to put him
off.
on a pedestal and worship him like Jobu, you're welcome to do
Yeah.
that too. But
Yeah, right, exactly. But we're going to say, as people that are tax paying and entertainment paying citizens, we don't want to spend our dollars on a team
yes,
that supports that type of behavior. That's the freedom we have.
we vote with our dollar much more than we do with our political vote, and people
Right,
forget that.
right.
But let's switch to question two because I
Question
think
number
we're getting a little hyped up and it's gonna bring us
Yeah.
down a notch.
Okay.
Second question: what is
Hey.
your earliest happy memory you can go back to? I mean,
Hmm.
it can just be more of a feeling, a thought, but what takes you back? What's one of the first good ones?
That's a good one. I got to think about that.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah. Let's
Like one
see.
example I had is this is what got me on the question is my grandfather had a garden. I just always remember the smell, the combination of tomatoes, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
still remember that
smells.
smell.
You know the thing you bring up smell is I don't. Not many people know this. It's not a big deal. I'm not gonna cry baby here, but I don't. I have a very poor lack of
Oh really?
smell, ability to smell because I've had allergies my whole life. And I use a lot of nasal sprays and
That'll do
different
it.
products,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
just numbed it. So I very rarely smell things intensely. But when I do, it reminds me of how important it is linked to memory and
Yes.
linked to everything else
Well, they
because it
say
brings
our
back
strongest memory
emotion.
is smell.
Yeah, that's too bad for me because a lot of times I can't smell shit.
You
It's
just,
like a
well,
neutral
you're
smell.
just like Daredevil, man. You just gotta
Yeah,
catch up
yeah.
for it on other
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, right. Well, yeah, somehow I'm making up for it
I'm
by
sure you're memorying off the
my
vision or something better.
toenails grow extra long. That's what I got. That's my superpower. Watch out, I scratch you. So anyways, earliest happy memory. When I guess when we were really, really young, it was me and my two brothers and my parents. They were all in kind of in twilight part of the evening, just hanging
hmm
out in bed, and my dad was making jokes and stories and being a lot of my personality comes from him,
Okay.
my entertaining type of creative side, and he would just tell us make up stories as he would sit there on the fly,
Oh yeah.
and he would just take different ideas, and he as he would talk, he never barely read a book to us, he just made them out of his head, and I
Yeah.
took it for granted for the longest time, and then realized sometime later in my life I was like, wow, that is an amazing talent that he had, that
Yeah.
he should have been an actor himself. My dad should have never been a blue collar worker, and that's what he was. He went
Yeah.
the stable route, and I know he's regrets it and he's resentful to it. And later in our life, things changed. Once we got older and got a little more independent, that was a threat to him. So that caused an issue with his own insecurities, and
Right.
everything imploded at some point. And then there was still some good things in there, but that early memory where it was so innocent, it was
Yeah.
so how a family I felt it was going to be, and then what turned into is very disappointing.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's how life
But
goes,
well,
and
that's why I asked the question because it's good to go back and remember those things that
right, yeah.
that was a true moment that you had, and
Right. I mean, he used to work 6 days a week, 7 days a week sometimes, and we didn't get to see him because he worked late shifts. We'd miss him, one of those
yeah,
things where
I'm sure.
he and he would record stories in that on a tape recorder,
Really,
and then my mom would play it for us at night, so he could still have interaction with us.
that's super
Isn't that
cool.
amazing?
That's
Yeah, he
super
had
cool.
that. that's the part about my dad that I absolutely. I mean, I love him unconditionally. Don't get me
Of
wrong,
course.
but there's a side that he drifts towards that's an and I understand what it is, and because I learned about this because of those things that happened in my life, it forced me because I said I don't want to be that. I don't want to
Yeah.
be angry. I don't want to be punching holes in the wall. I don't want to be screaming at people. I don't want to be so angry that I don't want to feel that lump in my throat, that punch in the gut, and that horrible anxious feeling that there's nothing you can do about. I hate all
Yeah.
that. I don't hate, but I dislike that displeasurable feeling. So whatever it
Yeah.
is, if dislike, that's what it's good for, is to push you to say, I want to get away from this prickly thing, this dagger.
It's a good fuel, but if you overuse the fuel, you can burn out the furnace. Is the way I
Correct.
look at it. You know.
That's a good analogy. And to me, hate could be shown in nature as the spines of a porcupine.
Mm,
It's what
okay.
has to be there to keep you away from doing certain things that motivate
Oh, I
you.
like
Okay?
that. I like that.
That's it's kind of this like
It's an interesting
it's just this
metaphor.
it's like it's a tacky thing that's
Yeah, yeah.
pushing you to act and it's using your adrenaline to do it. And
Right.
sometimes you need that in a situation like if you're getting into a fight or flight, you
Oh
got to
yeah.
hate that person. Otherwise, you're not going to want to punch them
Or
and
or
save yourself.
you gotta hate the idea of being in this situation at the very least.
Whatever. I don't care. At that
I'm
moment, I
saying,
don't care what you think, because everybody has to. When it comes to being an animal, you be an animal.
yes.
When it comes to being refined, you be refined. But when you're in that scrapping mode,
But don't
all
pretend
bets
like
are
you're
off.
not an animal. Don't
Correct,
don't
because
don't
we are
pretend you're not based off years of
evolution. Whatever
adapting.
you want to call it.
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever.
because
It's at least
remember, I believe in elements changing things,
yes, I agree.
and so that's why you see all these species of frogs and all this. I don't want to get off tangent, but back to the spiky thing, the hate. To
Yeah,
me, that's the way I look at it too.
yeah,
And your
yeah.
other analogy, if you use it the wrong way or anger the wrong way, I shouldn't say hate because hate is a result of anger,
Yes.
and it really results from an insecurity, something you're trying to avoid, and it's okay. You should avoid certain things in your life because they drag you down.
Well, I am wearing a Star Wars T-shirt right now, and you hit a couple buzzwords that are going back to one of my favorite Star Wars quotes.
What's that?
You have too much fear in you, young one. Fear leads to anger. Anger
Mhm.
leads to hate, and hate
Yeah.
is the path to the dark side.
Yes, that's
And
right.
I I
It's
love it. I
desperation. It is. That's hate.
but the
Suicide is
the
hate,
one thing I was
actually.
adding to what you're saying is you're talking about differentiation of anger and hate, but the thing that leads before either of those two is fear.
Right.
Is there are a lot of people living in fear right now, and what I made my goal,
Unnecessarily.
yeah, unless completely. So there, some people live off the idea of fear.
Right. Some people really can't be afraid, and that's okay. Listen,
Yeah,
and everybody's fear is based off the mind, anyways. I mean, for
yeah,
instance, you could be afraid in a war zone when you're running through and watching for your life, or you can be afraid that something might happen in an anxious way.
yes,
So
oh yeah,
the fear to me of real fear, and if we're going to categorize it, because words mean things, if you ask me, I don't like this idea that words are this diluted thing that can
no,
move around a morass, because then you can't pin anything down, and it's a never-ending uh, point that keeps moving, and you
no,
get
no, no,
nowhere, and
no.
it's pointless.
That dilutes the concept way too
Right,
much.
right.
I mean, I remind myself all the time, just studying biology, studying psychology, just understanding the fact that we are an animal that
Right.
developed a bigger brain that was originally to do completely different things, but now we're using it as a way for me to say things with my tongue that allow you to conceptualize them in a
Right.
completely different way based off
Correct.
your reference system. Like
It's awesome.
that little concept I just described, I remind myself all the time, like it's a miracle that we've evolved to the point where I can have a concept, try to verbalize it, and you'll amalgamate that into your own version of it, and then we can walk away and there's been
Yeah.
something exchanged. Like,
Right.
what
Yeah.
other
Well,
animals
the
on this
alchemy
planet can
is
do
right.
that?
Right. Yeah. They listen. I,
We're
I
alchemists
don't.
of our own thoughts.
We are, and it's so bizarre because people forget. If
How
you
beautiful
watch
that is.
nature is fucking raw, dude. It
Oh,
has
it
no
is.
emotion.
No.
It's no. I don't care what people say. Just because a dog looks at you in a certain way, and listen, they can have certain feelings of they like you and they want
Yeah.
to be near you because you're a provider or whatever, and they want to follow you because you're the master, and they want to make you happy because
But they're
that type of thing.
animals. But
But
they're
they're
animals.
animals, and I always tell people this: if you died with your dog in the house, and the dog ran out of food, it would eat you.
It would eat you.
It has to. It's his instinct. So it's not that great. So nature resorts back to whatever it is. I've seen videos of baby eagles born in the nest,
Yeah.
and the one's a weak one, and the other ones pick at it while the mother's
Yeah.
away, and they kill it. And when it gets back, the mother looks at it and goes, "Okay," rips it up and feeds it to the other two.
That's
Don't
it.
tell me fucking nature's better than humans and all animals are great. I hate that bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
I don't hate. I say these metaphors.
No. I
but, you know,
I
it's
feel what
just
you're saying.
nonsense. I get, sometimes we get caught up in trying to explain the words too much, and it makes it a diluted process too. But we gotta just go off the cuff, say it from the rip, because it's real.
I love having you on because
You.
it's weird. It's weird for me because you talk in the same way I do when I'm obviously not hosting the show. Like if I was on someone, I'd be talking the same way you are. I'm constantly when I notice I'm saying something incorrectly, I'll stop myself right away and say, "No, that's not what I mean."
Right.
And you're doing that all the time.
Yeah, right. Because it's called being conscious of what's happening.
You're well aware of what you're saying. You're well aware of what I'm probably picking up while you're saying it enough to change on the fly.
Right, exactly. And that's know what that is? That's the
high level
result
communication is
of
how I look at it.
a quadrillion processes a second. That's what your
Yeah.
brain does. That's what we mapped it at
amazing.
least. A quadrillion processes a second. It's controlling every little thing. And if everything's going right, you don't feel anything. You just kind of feel.
And they say we're only using so much of our brain, but there's always part of our brain that's keeping our cells growing, keeping our
It's like a computer. The same thing, not
managed.
everything's going to the processor.
No.
There's other
sometimes
things
you
going
need your
on.
CPU to have some free space too. Sometimes.
Listen, we're just recreating a human in hardware form. That's what a computer is.
That's it.
That's what it's gonna turn into. By the time they make video games and all these because I did some artificial gaming, virtual reality. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, virtual reality.
Virtual reality not too long ago, and the graphics were, they're okay, but it still made you feel like you were in it. Even if the graphics. So I was thinking to myself, well, it won't be long before they make this so it really does feel like you're in a whole nother city. Like you could be in another city without being there. You could walk through it. You could interact with people actually. And
it's funny. A lot of sci-fi are already assuming I'm huge into sci-fi, whether it's gaming, whether it's movies, TV shows. I'm all about that, and most of them already make this assumption that in the future, virtual reality is going to be indistinguishable from reality, or augmented reality, or whatever.
So, Michael, what are we doing when we do virtual reality? We're putting another set of eyes over the eyes over our head. What's behind the eyes that are right there already?
Yeah. Well, there's a brilliant scene. The tattoo I have, the altered carbon. There's a brilliant scene I love. I don't know if you've seen the show.
No, I have not.
Okay. I didn't think you had.
I don't watch a lot of TV and media stuff for some reason. I don't know why.
You're probably better off, honestly.
It drives me nuts.
I like to dip my toe in the water. Yeah. And every now and then I
watch some popular things and trendy. Go ahead though.
Actually, I try to stay away from the popular stuff. I look for the diamonds in the rough. And this to me was a show I found to be a diamond in the rough. Actually, I've showed it to a few friends, and one of my best friends is like, "I'm not doing it, not feeling it. No, I don't like it." I'm like, "All right, well, I love it."
Netflix or
it's on Netflix. There's only one season so far.
Yeah, what's the name of it? Because
it's called Altered Carbon.
Okay, I'll check it out because we're always looking for
to anyone who I don't know if I'm going to try to get the tattoo in shot here for a second. But the thing is, there's one scene in particular. This isn't a spoiler or anything, but it's in the first episode. It's in significant future, and without really saying much about the show, there's a guy from the past in the future, and they put in like this retinal thing for him to see all this augmented reality. It's all these advertisements he's getting. All these people are like, oh, come in here, come in there, and he's like getting overwhelmed by it, and he's like,
oh wow,
he like has this moment where it's a Blade Runner like scene. It's kind of that like the slums, and he's got all these bright lights like Las Vegas around him, and he's just overwhelmed by all this around him because he's not used to it, and he breaks down on his knees, and someone walks up behind him and gives him this chip. It's like an upgrade chip or something that allows him to like sift through it, and then he like has peace. He's just like, oh, okay, this is the real world again. And just like the way they stylized that, I thought was brilliant. It was just like all these advertisements all in your face, and she just puts this chip on the back. He's just like, okay, real life again.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. This is a filtering mechanism.
Yeah.
It's filtering a bunch of vibrations into a resolution screen, basically, in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's all. Everything vibrates. The table, microphone, whatever.
I look at all the things I've learned off of the computer system, whether it's watching YouTube video, reading ebooks, reading whatever. Right. And it's like, when you put it that way, it's like those are just vibrations, but look at how it's affected my behavior in an
Right.
objective, measurable way.
That's what it's about.
And we're, we're
Really.
we're in an era where just about anything you want to look up to do, it's on the web.
Oh yeah.
And
No,
no one has the blame. You can't say, well, I can't do that. It's like, well,
dude,
there's a lot of things you
you
can't
can
do.
dial a number and food shows up at your flipping door. Okay, I mean, you're not hoeing a field, you're not planting seeds, you're not watering, you're
What
not
a
tending, you're
time
not
to
manuring.
be alive. I
I
mean,
know it.
a
Anything you have a
huge
question about, tell me an answer. Okay.
a huge
Oh,
portion of human
I'm
history.
oppressed.
A huge
I'm
portion of human
oppressed.
history, a majority of the population spent their entire lives with one thing in mind: having more food on for the next day. We don't have that anymore.
Right.
And
I
it's,
always say to people that are downtrodden too, it's like, listen, you don't have to walk 2 miles for water.
yeah,
I know it's all relative. I'm not saying that it can always be worse. But I'm not trying to
no.
sugarcoat things into being this. I
It's
just want people
grounding.
to
It's
focus
grounding.
on
It's grounding.
right.
It's
That's
just,
the word.
it's
And know what grounding is essentially, Michael? A grounding is essentially the divine.
yeah. Well, to me, the
It's the
grounding
infinite.
grounding is like we're talking about this divine flow, right? And
Right.
a lot of people talk about the flow like it's water, but sometimes it's electricity. You know, sometimes,
Right.
and if you hold on to that electricity for too long, it will fry your circuits. You gotta
True.
ground yourself to let the
Right.
flow out.
That's great. That's a great way of putting it. That's why it's good having
You
these
know?
conversations, talking to
Yeah.
people, not
Oh, yeah.
bottling that stuff in. And that's why we cry. It's like an overflow of an outlet. It needs to go
Yes.
somewhere.
Well,
And so
I can't
if
even
it's too much, it
remember
comes
the
out like
quote.
crap.
I can't even remember the quote properly. I'd have to look it up again. I have so many quotes that bounce around. I paraphrase them, and then I play this own game
Yeah,
of telephone. And
it's
within
okay.
myself, I'll say it differently each time until it's all my
You
quote.
know what? It matters is how it's being presented at the
Yeah.
moment, because all we have is the moment, anyways. You know that, so
Yeah.
doesn't really
Wait,
matter.
what was the quote I was going to? I spent too much time
Yeah,
prepping, framing it.
yeah,
I don't even remember it anymore.
Don't skip it now.
It's lost now. If it's
Lost
important, it'll
into
come.
the ether.
It's lost into the ether, man. If
Sorry.
it's important, it'll come back. What were we just saying? Give me a quick reminder, maybe. We were just saying
About the artificial intelligence.
no, we're talking about the
internet.
flow,
The
of
flow. Oh, the
everything.
fact that we can get anything off the phone.
Yeah.
Everything's available to us. We're not
See,
oppressed.
this is why we need an audience, because this is where they make fun of me
Yeah,
now,
right. Yeah,
and
right.
they keep us on topic.
Somebody out there should be yelling something.
Well,
Hey, idiots.
that's what I want. And actually, I've said this before. Is I know I've made it when I got my first hater.
Right. No, it's like when Weird Al Yankovic mocks your song, you're a successful musician.
That's another good way to put it.
Same
So,
idea. When
I
you
lost
need
that concept to either. And on that note, let's go on to question 3 real
Okay,
quick,
yes,
because
please.
we'll get through this
There's
eventually.
more to go after this, though. Yeah.
So, Steve, what is the most controversial stance you hold, but it's the one you wish you could bring up more in public? Because some people have certain controversial topics they wear out on their sleeves. What's the one you don't get to talk about enough?
You know, I don't think any conversation's controversial. I just be honest with
This has
you.
been an issue I've had with a few people I've had on.
I know what you mean. By the word. I know what you mean by the word.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on me and how much I look at it a different way. How much energy do I want to put into something for a desired outcome? If the outcome isn't going to me at face value, be worth my energy. I mean, that's how you got to judge.
Well,
everything.
controversy to me is it's almost a measure of the willingness for someone to
Right.
chime into something.
I will do it like this. I will relate it to this. When I'm on Facebook, sometimes I'll write up a response to a post, and I'll go, you know what?
Yeah, I do that.
I don't want the notification. I don't want to talk to this person because I know what they're gonna say.
I
It's
walk
just,
it
you know
back
what?
all
I
the
don't want
time.
the whole anxiety of it.
Yeah,
So
I'm with you.
it's more comes down to that. My choice of energy spent rather than the top, because I'll talk about fucking anything. I don't care if it's abortion. I don't care if it's prostitution. I don't care if it's illegal immigration. I don't care if it's
But here's the thing:
immigrants
you're
in general.
thinking
I don't
deeper
care.
here. You're thinking deeper here. When I say controversial stance,
Right.
one of the things I have that I wish I could talk about more often is how shitty they dumped on Star Wars, on The Last Jedi. I wish I could talk about that more often, but I bring it up, and people don't want to talk
have
about
the
it.
majority opinion doesn't think it was a shitty dump. Is that what you're saying?
Oh no, there's some people who even concede that, but I want to get into why.
And nobody wants to discuss it?
I don't get the opportunity. That's the bigger problem.
I see.
Because
I
it's not
see.
always, and that's more my question. It isn't what's controversial. It's what's something that is controversial to people, but you don't get a chance to talk about it enough that you'd prefer to. Because like you said, abortion it's almost like it's a hamster wheel of a conversation, I feel.
Right, depending who you're talking about and what they're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean,
what's something that maybe you could see a more measured response to?
In general, my thing is about how ignorant a lot of people that I consider either close friends and maybe acquaintances that I see stuff they write and I want to kind of point their head in the right direction sometimes and just to help them out for them, but I know they're going to take it as an attack because of the behavior, how they do it, so I already think it through to the end to know that I'm going to waste my time and stick my neck out for no reason. So I really, my thing is
so it's not just me then.
No, I would like to point out some, and when I do my best to point out, I'm attacked, and it's like and it's like I don't need this because it doesn't really make a difference in my life. So, but I like talking. My whole thing is I want to talk more in general like this to more people, and I have some ideas I'm cooking around. So my thing will be is to the big thing for me is I want to become more of a public figure and how these people that I care about are going to react to it. Yes. Because they're going to say, I have to be who I am and say what's on my mind. I have to be genuine.
That's my favorite thing about doing this podcast. You hit it right on the head is I look back at some of my videos I did before. I'm like, God, what the hell was I thinking? The delivery was awful. This was awful.
That's how you refine your craft.
But that's the thing is I like the permanence of these podcasts because I do feel like every time I do this, I'm getting better. And the funny thing is, I'm looking at like cutting material, like clipping material and like repackaging it. But the funny thing is, I still feel like I'm getting better every time I'm doing it. Or it'd be like trying to divvy up your earnings too quickly. It's like, I don't even think I'm good enough to really break this thing down for a while.
Just get popular enough to be disliked by a large amount of people.
It's a weird thing you said there, but I understand, and I'm actually with you.
But this is a record. If anybody wants to watch these videos later on, go back in time. Let's say this is months or years from now, and watch these videos. They can see our actual words and not some sort of spun words. No. Because I think that there's a common sense that I'm not hearing a lot in a lot of different places that there's a hunger for. And when I talk to people one-on-one, the common sense is there. But when I get online, I don't know if it's being suppressed or if people just act more dicky.
I think people connect with like edgy. The hive mind, man. I think that's really what it comes down to.
No, they do. It's like when I saw some of my friends post how happy they were to see like the squad get into that they're calling them now, the squad, these 4 people who, I'm sorry, I just disagree with them on so many different avenues. It's not that I dislike them or hate them, even though I may make fun of them or joke around about them. I just think they're nasty people in general. I don't like.
They don't like America.
Right. They just are.
They don't like what America is. What I find like beautiful, they don't find beautiful. Well, to me, I think that's one of the core concepts of conflict. Is I think part of life of art is the pursuit of obviously your survival instincts. But past that, I think the furthest level is to find what you find beautiful and let it enthrall you. And when you have people who their value structures are different to the point where what you find beautiful is not what they find beautiful, that's the huge cause of conflict.
Right, and that doesn't work. You see here, to me,
it's the concept of paradise lost in the garden.
Here's a controversy. I'm just going to say this real quick. Let's bring up a topic. I'm just going to talk about this real quick.
Go for it.
Since we're on this question. The flag. Let's talk about the United States flag.
Yes.
And every iteration of the flag. I don't care if it's from the first one to what it is now. The rebel flag, we'll save that for another discussion. But the American flag, it represents an idea, is what it represents. And it represents everybody that's here working towards that idea.
Yes.
And it doesn't represent the poison that has seeped into the idea.
Yes.
Okay,
it can represent that if you let it.
Right, if you look at it that way. But my point to it is that what we need to all agree on is that the flag unites us in a way that says we all agree on the concept and idea of freedom, liberties, pursuit of happiness. Because what it does is if you buy an apple and you cut it open and it has a worm in it, and you're like, oh, it's disgusting, this apple's got a worm and I don't like this apple. Do you hate all apples from there to the eternity? I'm never buying another apple. I'm against apples. Apples shouldn't have worms in it. I'm down with apples. I'm an apple hater. I hate apple sauce. I hate freaking apple cobbler. I hate motherfucking apple pie. Excuse me for the French.
No. This is a French acceptable
Friendly
podcast.
show. Okay, good. Because it's like this is what drives me nuts. It's like people don't see that. They start downing and they start agreeing with people. They put their politics as hypocritical politics as blinders
Yes.
on, and they say, oh, it's okay to kneel on the flag. It's okay to be an ignorant. Uppity,
Well,
non-appreciative, non-teamwork a woman that is spits on the flag basically, and because she's a woman, it's like quit looking past, quit using the general idea
labels, yeah,
instead
yeah.
of what's happening.
Well, and
You
I
want
think
to.
a lot of times when people are doing that, like burning the flag, stomping on the flag, I think
It's
that's a very
fine.
it's a very childlike emotion, though.
It
I think
is. It's just
I
trying to get people to get angry and upset.
yes, you're trying to get attention by trying to get a
Right.
rise out of people because you know the behavior's bad, so you want
Right.
the reaction to get corrected. To me, it's this
I get it's a
whole
piece of cloth. I know it's just a piece of cloth, but it means something. It
yes.
means something. And then when you
Well,
do,
and
you're basically
they'll
stomping on my
ridicule you
face.
though. They'll ridicule you for having why you catching feelings. That's what's
Yeah, all of a sudden you're a snowflake now.
right.
Okay, all right, fine. It's not about. I'm not emotionally angry about it. I'm just
No.
saying it's
Well,
stupid.
and that's
I'm
where
having
they're
a
projecting
reaction to
that's
yours
when they're
dumb
projecting their
behavior.
philosophy on you. You
I
know,
know, right, right. To do, and they want to do that too. They undermine the argument itself.
yes.
They don't want to have a discussion
No.
of real
Not at
tangible.
all.
They want to talk about the morass up here of the feel good bullshit and because that's what level they operate
Well,
on. And
and we
they're
can
not
all
advanced.
Trump is the great uniter in the fact that I think the left is so strong in certain senses because they're united in their disdain for him.
Right.
You
That may
know?
be. Well, here I got to tell you what backfires on these people that go overboard and have this what I call a derangement
Oh, it's
syndrome.
TDS, yeah.
There's
Trump
no doubt
derangement
about
syndrome.
it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be cliche.
No,
It's
it's
just when I
not.
see
I'm
the
past it.
rabid, foaming at the mouth, hatred and vitriol over
I've
something.
seen too many videos. I don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to defend yourself. It's
Right.
a thing.
Okay.
It's a
It is.
thing.
It's definitely a thing.
100%.
When I see that, I think to myself, it's like, man, what are you? Where are you getting your information, and where are you at in your development cycle? And I'm going to judge because this is what we're supposed to do. We judge every minute of the day, and we're allowed to. By the way,
I
think
judge
this
myself
is
very strongly and harshly all the
Yeah, I
time.
judge nobody more than I judge myself.
Yes.
So fuck yeah, I'm judging you.
Fuck yeah, I'm with
motherfucker,
you.
That you have an immature mindset that you can't even understand. You know why you can't understand the concepts? Because you weren't allowed to have experiences that were difficult for you to get around as a child because your parents provided an environment that was all pillows and blankets.
Rainbows and butterflies.
Right. Nobody drops a tear for any reason, and I will just sop it up before it even gets out of that little tear duct. That's what happened. So they weren't able to, and plus I think people are just wired different from genetics. I think there's always going to be people.
That's a whole nother part of the equation too.
And rightly, there's no way you were going to ever stop it.
There's
It's
no
been like
one
this
size
forever.
fits all philosophy.
You're right. It's the battle of the people that are kind of in the middle area, which
Yeah.
most of us are, that can make decisions, not being fooled and tricked by their emotions,
Not
and
being
either
not being
direction.
reactive, being proactive.
Right. They're not being pulled in either direction
Yeah.
by right or left leaning people to use your emotions against you. I just
Yeah.
think let's talk about things that make sense. Let's have the
Yeah.
discussions, the tough words that we got to say, the hurt feelings that have to hurt, the tears that have to come down, whatever it is, because we're all going to be better for it. It's like having a good cry.
Oh,
when you're over it,
I need
you feel
to
better.
work on my George Carlin had his whatever dirty words.
right.
I need to have my dirty phrases, like all the different things I believe or want to believe
Right.
or claim to believe, and just have them on a list so I can just rip them down and just completely destroy someone who has a fragile ego. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, you know what? Here's the thing. It's like the teacher has a responsibility when it's teaching the student or
Yes.
around the student.
Yes.
Is to have a level of decorum that doesn't require you to have to get down in the trenches with them. But
Yeah,
some
that's
people
true, yeah.
need a lesson taught to them as well. So
Yep.
it's up to us to use our experience and our creativity to teach the lesson in a way that they're going to actually walk right into it and not even realize.
Yes.
And then they're going to even if you don't get us when you're talking and you don't seem like you've gotten anywhere with them at that moment, trust me, when they walk away, that's still in their brain.
Well,
it didn't automatically go out.
That's why my father and I've brought up about every podcast so far, but that's why him and I were at odds in a certain way at times, because he is a teacher. He is a teacher. That's what he does. And I've learned a lot from him, obviously, and I have a lot of the same methods of operation as he does. That
Hmm.
being said, I think he's realizing that I'm a reflection of his own work against him sometimes. That I'm
No,
using
that's
the tools he taught me, and I'm trying to
yes.
manipulate his behavior in a certain way. And I think he notices that sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure he does because he's got damn. He's fucking using the same shit I'm doing.
Exactly.
Trust me, he knows. That's why he's like, and that no, that's great though
Well, and I bring that
because
up. I
he's
bring him up in
challenging. You're
particular.
challenging. You're
Yeah.
challenging him back with his own stuff, so he can kind of evolve in his own way, in a gentle
Steel
way.
sharpens steel is all I was gonna
Right.
say.
Yeah, that's right.
You
You
know?
use a hard diamond sometimes to just cut things and sharpen edges. Exactly. You have to
Yeah.
sometimes. And that's what I think. I always believed in this thing. Sometimes somebody needs it, and I'm not saying this in regards to your father and you. This is a whole. I'm
No,
just
this is a
relating to
genuine
it.
concept. General concept. Yeah.
But sometimes people need a good punch in the mouth, so to speak, both
Oh,
either
big time.
physically or verbally, because they've been getting away without getting punched in the mouth so long. And I don't advocate violence. I'm just saying if they get in your face, if there's some sort of occasion where you feel you need to defend yourself, don't
Yeah.
hesitate. Do what you need to do to
Stand
stop
your
the
ground.
situation. You
Yeah.
don't have to be hit. I'm not trying to advocate violence. I just want to clear
No.
something up. You don't have to be hit first by somebody in order to be attacked. All they
Yes.
have to do is get in your line. You warn them 3 times. 1, get out of my face. Or I'm going to defend myself. 2, 3 times. Third time, you punch.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you're going to save a whole lot of people a lot of trouble down the road because you did something that nobody else would do.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, you hit it right in the head with the last statement. Is certain people need to be punched.
I'm not saying you do it. I'm just saying if you get into something with somebody where
Well,
you're backed into a corner, you have the right to do that, and don't ever feel you have to wait for them to hit you first.
This
That's
is analogous. This is analogous to a comedy sketch by Bill Burr. Actually, he got into this thing and he says he's like, so my ladies watching The View, and they're like, there is no scenario where it's right to hit a woman, and he goes, wait, what? He goes,
Yeah.
no, yeah, I agree with the first part of that, but wait, it's because they said something. It's inconceivable to have a thought that would make as to why you would hit a woman. He's like, I got like 20 right off the rip. Are you kidding me? I don't do it.
Right,
But he's like,
right.
yeah, there's
There's a
plenty.
lot of
There's
reasons.
plenty of reasons to hit a there's plenty.
Right. Like
But
getting
you
punched
don't
yourself.
do it. Yeah. And the thing is, certain people, I think that like if you're like killing a little debt list of like every time you need to get hit, some people are racking up a huge bill versus other people. And I think the ironic thing is, the people racking up a huge bill are oblivious to it, and the people who are living a proper life, the quieter people, are the ones who are probably the most judgmental and cognizant and conscious of their withstanding debt, this balance we're talking about,
Right.
of how much they've transgressed other people, and the other people are just creating a wake behind them.
Right. Yeah. Or you wear that then. Let's say this person.
I do too sometimes.
Again,
Sometimes I need to be hit.
Another thing I like to say, and I
Knock
read
down a
somewhere,
peg,
it's not my saying, but I reuse it, is play stupid games, get stupid prizes. I love that.
Yeah.
Because if you decide to get into these protests with these people and walk in there and somebody gets up to you, you're going to have to deal with people. So
Yeah.
don't act like, and this is where the fight is sometimes, out in the public, but I don't see it changing a lot of big things happening because of a couple fringe groups getting together and getting an altercation. I think people spend too much time on that.
Yeah.
The majority of people are your neighbors. If you travel around the country, if you travel into other countries as well, human beings are pretty much wired the same.
Yep.
There are different species that have different tendencies, and that's what makes life fun. It makes it all different, like Asian people compared to African American people, to Puerto Rican people compared to Polish people, Irish people, Italian people. We all are different breeds of the same basic entity, and we're expressing. And so, you know what? That's most people. You go to any place, everybody's getting along. Nobody's getting in fights. It's only these things here and there, and we're using our own emotions to project it back out to people like, I'm going to share this video of this person getting punched in the face, and it's wrong, and they're racist, or this person did that. Let me show you this. This is a real thing. And if it's just one, if you imagine 300 million people and everything that goes on every second of every day, that's really a small percentage of problems.
Do you take a second?
Sure.
Second every now and then to consider like I'll have a really boring day, and I'll say someone was running for their life today. You know?
Yeah.
Like I remind myself, it's like somewhere around the world, like, or I'll be like, I had a very unproductive day. Remind myself like someone really crushed it today. Someone
Yeah.
really just did a lot for mankind
Well,
today.
yeah, you know what? That's hard to do sometimes because we're so caught up in being the observer.
Yeah, yeah.
And that takes a stop, which is what meditation helps a lot of
Well,
people to
that's what I was about to say. I
separate.
have these thoughts when I meditate.
Right, you separate from the observer that's in it. You're like it's almost going to the corner when you're a boxer. In
Yeah,
the corner,
yeah.
you're looking around thinking, okay, I got to duck, I got to weave, I got to do this kind of thing, or not, or I can just sit there and kind of relax a little bit, let them
Right.
clean me up. And oh, look at the people taking pictures over here. Oh, what a nice dress she's wearing. You start to see the things that when you're in,
you have to unplug. Yeah, you have to
you're not
unplug.
looking at any of that other
when
stuff.
when you're in play mode, when you're in game time, you're not having a chance
Right.
to make those thoughts. You're
That's
not having a
what
chance
life
to.
is sometimes.
Yeah,
A
big
lot
time.
of times, most of the time, when you're turned on, when you wake up from your unconscious sleep to your conscious awareness, all of a sudden, bing, the lights start turning on. Click, 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 click. Oh, the motors start, your bowels start waking up. All this.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm back in. And that's a little bit of a process. You don't know what's going on, but it's
No.
happening.
And
So
yeah, whether you want to acknowledge it's happening or
gonna
not,
do
it's
that.
going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And to your statement, what you're going for there is, in order to recognize what you said, you have to be a trigger mechanism. If you don't do meditation, dietary, you do it medicinally,
Yeah.
which I prefer medicinally because I don't need to get into a routine every day where I need to get centered with my thoughts because
Yeah.
I'm always trying to be centered with my thoughts.
Right. Yeah,
But
no,
I
I'm
do
with you
get
there.
when my thoughts get too centered or too out of control where they get manic.
Yes.
And that happens with really thoughtful, deep thinking people. They get into manias.
Yes.
And a lot of people do in general. So that's what the meditation for me helps is to take out of that or sit quietly.
To me,
and
I had clinical mania, and I know at my worst that, and I don't mind talking about it anymore. I used to be very afraid of discussing it,
Yeah,
but in
you
my
gotta just
in my clinical mania, I will openly admit I thought I was like God incarnate. I at its worst, I thought I was the center of the universe, and I look back at that and I say, how ridiculous is that? But also, I was finally acknowledging my true potential. It was the first time in a long time I felt that good. You know what I mean? It's like
you kind of are in a way. You're not God himself, but man, you are at the center of the universe because it all relates to how you see it.
Well,
It
that's
all
kind of what I'm
relates to how
saying.
everybody sees it.
Because there's a half truth and a half fallacy to that thought, thinking that you're God incarnate.
Right.
Because part of having that lived experience is because I had never. That was like my first manic episode.
Right.
That's what they call it, a manic episode. Is the first? It felt like an opiate. It felt like a drug. It felt like a high that was completely generated by my body.
Yeah. I know what that feels like to a degree.
And
So I
the
can
thing
relate.
is, I can't say that those thoughts come anymore, but the reason I brought up is meditation is what reminds me that's not true. It's the ability, like you said, to separate from the observer. I could only get into my worst states of mania when I thought I was the only observer. It was when I took a step back.
That's dangerous, yes.
What's that?
That's that push too far to one side. That's dangerous.
Yeah. Well,
It's a dangerous area to get into.
in psychology, that's
For your
what,
well-being, it is.
when you integrate the ego and the self, which is a very dangerous thing to do. That's what they'd say in psychological terms. You need to separate the ego from the self because they're not the same. The ego is a concept and the self is a reality. And well, I think that really summarizes it great. Let's go on to another topic because we're halfway through.
All right, go ahead.
Fourth question. It's a societal collapse, post-apocalypse, whatever. You get your Hunger Games opportunity to grab one thing out the door. What is it? The one thing you have to grab to keep you alive.
Oh, I gotta bring my gun.
Your gun? Okay.
I'm bringing my gun because you know what? I just know how people are. I seen them on Black Friday.
Yeah.
And that's just over electronics.
Yeah.
And if over food and survival, they will do anything.
Like you
People
said.
turn animalistic.
Yeah. Nature is raw, and we are nature.
Right.
The
I'm bringing
moment
my gun and my clips.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can find more along the way.
Okay.
To defend, because otherwise the rest of it's nonsense. Because I need to, if I'm going to live, what else is going to protect me better than a firearm?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say for me,
my talking
answer
skills.
Because here's the thing: is I've been asking this question. A lot of people have given me practical answers in the sense that they go to their gun or like something they can go grab, which I like. It's a very good. But I'm gonna make this a two-tier question from now on.
Yeah.
Now let's say you can grab whatever you want. Let's say you want to grab a Gatling gun. whatever. Free to. Is there anything? Because for me, my answer is I would want a traditional katana.
Okay, I see where you're going with that because it has unlimited ammunition.
Essentially, yeah. Well, not
Essentially,
only that,
basically, if you use it,
it'd be a tool also.
and
Because
it could be a
here's the
tool.
thing is your gun. Let's say you do have 200 rounds of ammunition. That's good for a while. And
Right,
what happens eventually when everyone runs out of ammunition?
right.
That's my thing.
Well,
That's the long game versus.
I hear what you're saying. What I would say to that is this: the reason I would pick something as the survival, the reason that I would overlook that is because I would assume that with my skill and my cunningness and my know-how, that the gun is not going to be the only tool I come upon, but
Yes.
it's going to be the main tool
Yes.
that I may need if worst case scenario happens.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to react quickly to a situation and save my life as fast as possible, and I can't see that happening any faster than with a bullet.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there.
If there's a laser gun that shoots faster, I want that. That
That's
kills
fair.
faster.
Well,
At least
and
I
here's the
want
thing
that.
is, I actually initially said weapon distinctly for this question, but my father
Right.
said, why does it have to be a weapon? Some people might not be going to a weapon right off the rip. So,
Yeah, right. That's okay. It's good to open up to anything you want to grab. And
yeah. Well, the
I'm
whole point of me
curious
asking
to
these questions
why-
in general is I want to ask a lot of different people to be on my show and get a lot of different answers is what I'm hoping for. But
Right.
the problem is I've got,
What's interesting. It's a good learning experience to hear how people's minds tick.
yeah. The thing is, all four people I've had so far are all within my echo chamber. And so
Right.
the next people I'm looking to have on, I'm looking to try add a little more diversity of thought.
Right. Gives people that may not agree with the same concepts
Well,
or may not even have a clue about the concepts that you have.
Exactly. And that's why I figured asking these 6 questions and actually having people that I agree with as a nice baseline to start off with is going to be really interesting is the way I look at it. I'm really excited to see what the results are. The conversations I can get started by asking these same questions to many different people. Like 2 of the guys I just had they're in California. I've never been there. To me, it's part of the United States, but it's almost a different country entirely.
Yeah, California. I've been to a couple different places in California now, but I haven't been there a lot. Not
Yeah.
to the northern part. It is a very diverse state. I mean, they
Very.
have mountains and the redwoods, and they got the beaches, and all the way down to the coast and
Mountainous
the
up in
border.
the north.
Yeah, it's a different crowd of people. So
Yeah.
it depending on where you go, every place I've been in California, I've been to San Diego, LA, a few different places in LA, Laguna Beach, Orange, Anaheim, those kind of areas. They all have a similar look on the West Coast. To me, once you get past like Las Vegas in that area and there, all the stuff starts looking very similar because it's all that part. Now,
Yeah.
Northern, I've never been in, so I don't know anything about what that looks like, but I assume it's very beautiful from the pictures I've seen.
Yeah.
But it is a diverse, and the people there, I've had no one way or another. I haven't had any issues with anybody. Maybe I don't look for it. Maybe this doesn't happen to me. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm privileged.
Well, I had a
or
similar,
something, but
I lived in Chicago for the last year, and people, were you dealing with any dangers, any violence, I lived there for a year. I didn't see one problem. But that goes back to the idea of consciousness, awareness, synchronicity that we're talking about. Is like, I consciously am watching other people, and I think I avoided a lot of situations simply by being aware.
right, and, and it's all about the vibe you give off too.
Yeah. So all these negative things people might be seeing, you and I, because we're trying to enjoy the experience, because we're trying to
Right.
see the glass
We're
half
looking
full,
at it,
we
right.
might not see some of it.
No,
and
that's right.
that I don't know. That was just
Or in general, you just don't attract it to you because
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
Yeah, that's true, too.
negativity or positivity, either way, both have an attraction
They do.
cycle. And if you're looking and spotting the negative things, you can look and spot the positive things. And it's about, remember, you're the observer, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what anybody else is observing. It's about, and I'm not saying ignorance is bliss kind of thing, like ignore the tragedies, ignore the things that aren't the way they should be, and just
Yeah.
turn a blind eye to suffrage. I'm just saying, don't suffer like the people that are actually suffering because it's not necessary.
No.
It doesn't do anything.
Wallowing in mutual suffering never helped anyone.
No, exactly. You do the positive influence and light from what you can affect.
Yeah.
And if you feel, you feel called to the purpose of going over to other countries and feeding the poorest and destitute of the world, then I say go for it. And have the
Good
experience.
for you. Good
And
for
God
you.
bless you and do your thing, but it's not a reason to blame every white person or somebody else for patriarchy or this oppressive system did this or this. there's too much good things happening to constantly point the finger. Because if you point the finger and play the blame game, then you got to do the praise game.
Yeah. Well,
And I
and
don't think
you
I
laid it at the
don't
beginning.
really
Gratitude is
think it's
much more
necessary.
important. Is
Right.
if you're gonna waste your breath with a talk of suffering and everything, it's you got to match it with some gratitude, or else you're gonna lose yourself. You're gonna spiral. You're gonna go to those places that I've been, and they're not good to be in. That's the thing is I've had people tell me like, I don't even know, accusations of my demeanor, of being too. Oh, it's been a while, so I don't want to paraphrase anymore. But the thing is, I am consciously trying to put on a persona of security because I want other people to feel that. I don't always feel it.
Confident. Just be
Yeah,
confident.
but you know what I
And the
mean.
reason you be confident is because you are vulnerable.
The point is, some people have accused me of being delusional, and it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm delusional. God bless
Listen,
me.
that's their opinion because they don't see things from your experience
Well,
level. They only see it from their experience
Well, and
level.
the thing is, I can even look. The point I'm trying to make is, I've seen their experience level, and there's a part of me that say maybe I am delusional. But and here's the thing is, but let's say I am delusional. I'd rather be working towards my ideal than being too practical and realistic with you. I'd
Okay,
rather, you know what I
let
mean?
me give you an analogy. If I was in third grade math, and the teacher from high school brought the calculus book in and set it down and said, "Let me show you how these figures work," I'd look at him and say, "You're fucking delusional.
Right.
If you think I'm gonna understand what the hell this is, I don't know
Right.
what the hell you're talking about. You're out of your mind." And that's what it is that's an extremism to make the
No,
point.
no, I think
But
it's
what's
apt. It's
happening
very apt.
is people are so entrenched in the idea that they can't alter their mindset. They can't have a open mind, and they go, "Well, it's just how it is." What makes their point of view correct and your point of view not correct? It really is a matter of, if you're talking, it's a subject, whatever you were talking about, is there facts behind it? Are things you can point to? Are there anchors, their own anchors that are unmistakable anchors, like the anchor that we have?
How
with
does
the
it
universe?
tether itself to your concept of reality?
Right.
Because that's the thing is, truth can smack you right upside the head, but if you don't understand what hit you upside the head, you're just going to
Right.
get beat by stuff
Right.
with your eyes closed for the rest of your life. You
Right,
need to
right.
open your eyes and see what it is that is interacting with you and causing and latch onto it and understand so it doesn't happen again.
Well, and the problem is, what has to happen is something has to happen to you, direct experience, rather than your perceived experience. So think about that for a second. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say I'm a person that believes there's this oppressive idea going on in this country.
Yep.
I haven't really felt the oppression myself. I've never felt oppressed, but I think there's something else going on out there because I hear it some. There must be going on out there. These people, it couldn't be that they're just coming up with the term and idea because they feel oppression is them just not being able to have the easy way in life.
Right.
And somebody else got an easy way. It couldn't be that.
No.
It must be it really happened. Now let's say, due to my fact that I believe that this is oppression going on, I vote a certain way to the government to fix this oppression that I believe is going on. And then the government says, "Okay, thank you very much. We're going to do what we think." And we do something, and the result of it affects the person that thought they were helping the oppressed person. And then our reality hits. Holy shit, my taxes are fucking out through the roof. Holy crap, I can't afford to think. Holy this. Oh, that is what that means when I do this,
Yeah.
that. Oh, fuck that. Fuck you, oppressed motherfuckers. I ain't living like, no, wait a second.
I think that's happening a lot right now. I think that
That is what's happening.
that awakening is happening with a lot of people lately, and I think it's
too
wonderful.
soft on it because everybody's been like kind of just secretly behind the scenes, fucking like this Elijah Cummings motherfucker that has all this money, that whole thing, stealing, basically, not supporting the people,
Nope.
and just kind of kicking the can down the road. Nobody's noticing. I'll play the race car game. And then somebody's finally said, "Hey, motherfucker, let's look at you." Wait a minute. Now let's talk about this now. And now some people are going, there is something to that.
Yeah.
Or they'll try to smoke screen and say, "Oh, it's a racist thing," or whatever.
If you look back, I'm a big fan of history. The last live stream I had is I was talking history quite a bit because I think it's very useful to look at where we came from. And historically,
Right.
being a public servant was not. It was a position of
lifetime
authority.
career.
It was a position of authority and respect. But being a public servant, I'm talking bureaucrat. Like,
Right.
it was a sacrifice. It was you were making. It was not. You weren't making money off it. Generally, you were losing money.
And you, not to cut you off there,
Yeah.
really quickly, that you only did it long enough to go back and
To
live
what
under
you
the
wanted.
rules that
Yeah.
you did.
It's
you
not.
came
It's
back.
not a lifestyle.
Right. Let's say you're a business person in the community or just a regular farmer or something, and you kept seeing these things going on that weren't getting addressed that you feel the state or federal government
Yeah.
could help or
Well,
be a
and that's
part
where
of.
Donald Trump is that traditional style
Right.
public servant. He's that guy who is in the business field, whatever. He's
He didn't
investing in
have
real
to do
estate.
it off the backs of the public, by the way. He did it in the
Right.
private sector. Now you can say he did it off the backs of the public by splitting hairs, and we can get into that whole argument about
Russia collusion. He's
Yeah,
bought
all
by
that
the
bullshit.
Russians.
That's a
Russia.
whole. We could sit here for an hour and talk about that alone because I got a lot of things to say about that. But
But let's
but
actually
let's
take that
stick-
opportunity as a way to move on to the next question.
Okay, sounds good.
Because I think Russia collusion is a good place to stop.
Okay.
So, what is one simple lesson that you wish everyone in the world would have to learn by the time they turned 18? A universal lesson. Transcends language.
Well, my brain's going in two different directions.
That's
As
good.
it often, actually, multiple different directions because I have a couple different thoughts that started
Sure.
popping into my head. My initial thought was, that's a difficult question to answer because I don't want to have a law.
You don't want to be that
has-
authoritarian.
I don't want to be an authoritarian.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But if there was
If you had to
something-
wield that divine power, how would you use it?
Right. Okay. Only this point. If I had a divine power, and it would only be for the sake of making their lives better.
Yes.
Sooner. That's all.
Yeah.
Is that your choices have consequences that aren't changeable by how you feel about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So make whatever choice you want in life. And I implore you to, because that's your right as a baby that made it out of the womb alive.
Yeah.
It's a blessing already. You have choices of whatever you want in your life, but make sure they're your own choices and know that they have a consequence and you have to live with that consequence. And the sooner you figure that out, the sooner your life will get really, really fun.
Yeah. And
Because
you can smell the roses more often.
Right, yeah, right. You can see if the choice is to fuck off all day, even though it's not a fuck off day, you need it to relax and you're okay with it, embrace it, you can have a wonderful time. But if
Yeah.
you tell yourself, I shouldn't be doing this, I have all this responsibility, I have bills, I got to get the groceries, I got to cut the grass, oh, geez.
Yeah.
And then the whole time
You
you're
build
trying
your
to
own prison.
you think about that, and now
Yeah.
you didn't relax. So your choice, and you're, by the way, the reason everything is chaotic like that is because you made your life that way. You
Yeah.
made choices. You had kids. You didn't have kids. You bought 2 cars. You got a house that you couldn't really afford. Whatever it is.
You went to college for 4 years and
college for a
accrued
ridiculous
a...
degree that doesn't mean anything because
Yeah.
you were sold a bill of goods by the government that you must have a degree in order to be successful in this world.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
shit
that's-
lie.
And then millennials suck on top of it because of that stuff.
Well, I don't like generalizations. But
I'm just following. I'm just following a narrative that's very all too common.
That's okay. I don't mind it because if you shoe fits, wear it. If you are
Yeah.
the embodiment of a millennial, and you are one of these people that are, just like, very gentle with their feelings and can't talk about things and wants everybody to get along and think of life's a utopia and doesn't want reality, you have to be called out on it. Listen, if I'm willing to call out myself on the stupid shit that I do, and I do a lot of stupid shit, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, because that's how you learn. I have no problem admitting that. I
Yeah.
would not agree with myself from 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2
Oh,
years ago.
yeah. And
Okay, so if I would agree
that's
with
a
all
good
those
thing.
people, my own self, I'm not going to agree with everybody else, and I'm okay with that. But don't suppress my voice. Don't suppress my right to say what I want, even because you can't handle it.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
you
because
can't
I couldn't handle it. That's the way I look at it. It's like, why would I want to deal anyone a hand that I haven't dealt myself?
Right. You have to be open. That's
Yeah.
why this works. The second you get past this charade that you're this ego thing, that you are that ego thing,
Right.
that you have to be demure, you have to say things the right way. You can't ruffle feathers.
Well-
That's not what we say in an office environment. That's not what we do when we do these things. Young man, it's all that kind of nonsense.
I
No.
think I have a question for you that's not listed here. Getting into that is the idea of the ego. Is I think one of the best things that helped me conquer my own ego was learning to better integrate with my shadow, learning to understand the depths of my own depravity. And I think some people don't like to go there.
Oh no, I say.
But I find it
that.
it's a very enriching experience to be able to nurture that and keep him in the corner.
It's absolutely something that you should not be afraid of. First of
No.
all, I don't care what it says to you.
But you also understand your own power
Right.
in
That
that.
you don't. Right. Okay. Listen. There's a thwarting voice that I think everybody probably has to a degree.
Yeah.
And some of it may be a parental voice in there from a very early on age that got in there, or maybe it's just this thing that pulls this darkness that pulls that, because it happens to every person has the opportunity to turn towards darkness, and they don't all do it. And some
And it's a
people do.
choice. Yeah, you
And some
feel the
people
call. Yeah.
dabble in the darkness, just like some people dabble in the lightness. You know, it's like it's this all the spectrum, this
Right.
360 spherical
Well, and there's some
spectrum that
people
is
who
every.
just avoid it all and try to be as neutral as
Well, They,
possible.
they try to, but avoiding it actually is welcoming it,
Yeah.
because you're doing something. The idea to me is to accept what is, and your actions are who make you what the character you are to the people that give the surroundings around you and how you're going to be treated by other people. So if I want to give into the depraved side of my psyche and live that type of lifestyle, then I know the consequences that come with those choices, and
Yeah.
they're not favorable, and they're not
Yeah. Yeah.
pleasant, and it's a dark, just desperate lifestyle, and it's fearful, it's hatred, it's a sinful
Well,
pleasure,
I
it's
think
a
everyone has a different shadow. They're all dealing with
right, 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 right,
their own
right.
little toolbox of sin.
And
But
when I say sin, I only say it in a way that it's just this like this creepy way of living that I just don't,
well, to me,
I
I look at
can't
it, it's
align.
it's your subconscious, it's your truth, it's what you know, it's the lies you try to hide from. To me,
Right, right,
that's what the shadow is. It's
right.
it's what you try to conceal from yourself, and that's why I think that integrating with that, like understanding
Oh,
where those thoughts are,
yeah.
like people have these off thoughts and then they just bury them. It's like, well,
Well, what happens is you feed it, you get
why
that,
did you have that?
you get the momentum of resistance, and the
Yes,
more you resist this, the more the devil wants you to listen, and will get
yes,
stronger and more emboldened. Oh, you don't want me around? You want me saying these things? Well, guess what? Here I am even more now. Here I am even
yeah,
more. Oh, go away, just go away. I don't want to hear you, and that makes people crazy, and they go,
yes, yeah.
and they kill
Well,
themselves sometimes,
yeah.
or they kill themselves for other reasons. But whatever, there's a voice that they feed into that leads them to an area of darkness, and they
And
can't get
when
out
you
of it.
realize that isn't yourself, that it's actually just a part of yourself that makes you stronger.
Right,
That
right,
that's
yeah.
that's
I
the main
laugh at it.
that's
I
the
really
main
do.
thing.
When it says things that used to make me angry or upset me, or used to, like, I know these things because
No,
the voice is there. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know where the
it's
good
part
voice
of it's
comes.
part of your it's part of your psyche. It's the angel and the demon that they
Right.
always
I think it's
Renaissance art likes to
you know
put
what
on
I
people's
think?
shoulders.
It's actually the same thing that nature's predicated on. It doesn't
Yeah,
give a fuck kind of thing. It's that same thing that the baby
right.
bird picks apart the other one, kills it, and eats it, and goes, "Fuck you! I need to survive, motherfucker." That's the animalistic kind of area, and
Yeah,
the divinity side is the light that makes this machine work, and I don't want to be a mad person, and I like these things, and I don't
yeah.
like this, and I don't like it. And it's going, okay, remember, divinity doesn't need to call to you. It knows what it is. It
Well,
doesn't need to drag you in.
I really think the idea of beauty is a huge concept when it comes to value structures,
Right.
because when you're trying to create, you try to create something you find beautiful. Now, whether that
Right.
is simply some food
Or
you're making to
pleasing.
eat, or just
Whatever.
order in
Yeah.
your room, or
Right.
whatever it is, building a house, setting up finances for yourself, whatever,
Right.
you're creating beauty. That to me is under the
Right.
realm of beauty. The thing is, those
Okay.
dark thoughts are generally categorized on destroying beauty in some way.
Yes, yes, yes. Anger emotions,
And the
especially, they can do
question
that.
is, the question
Yep.
is, when you're going into those dark arts, are you doing that in a way that is self-destructive, or are you doing that in a way that is destructive to others? And I think that
Right,
different
right,
people lash out in different ways, and you can
right.
see the people who integrate with their shadow. Suicide is a great marker that, yeah, they held on to that resistance for so long, and they kept it inward. They actually being good. They weren't lashing out on others like other people do. And
Right,
instead they took the brunt of all of that. And it's
right.
vice versa for the people who are, abusive to their spouses, abusive to their kids, abusive to whatever. That is the same concept. They're holding on to that, but instead of resolving it, meditating, finding a way to churn that out of them and just eliminate the negativity, they choose to channel the negativity into another place and letting it just disperse into the ether in your own conduit is the way I look at it.
Right, right. You're a filtering mechanism, so
Yeah,
you can filter all sorts of things, all sorts of ways. So,
yeah,
I mean, to me, the light, in general speaking terms, to kind of make it simplified, is growth,
yes,
and your darkness is the destructive nature, the unraveling,
yeah,
the tearing apart kind of thing. And you're in the spectrum here.
Yeah.
So where do you want to be in your spectrum? Do you want to be heading towards the light? Or you want to be in the middle quibbling, going, I don't know, I go this way.
Right.
Or do you want to go, yes, pull me in the darkness. I'll do rotten things. I'll do horrible things because I'm a bad, shitty person anyways, and fuck everything. I'm a horrible human being. Nobody likes me. Nobody loves me. And therefore, I'm not going to have any love. And that's what it is.
I think it's more important. I think it's more important to understand that you can be anywhere on that spectrum.
Right,
Because
right.
this is one of the biggest problems, and one of the things I'm learning more recently is like even if I have a day where let's say I'm walling completely in the darkness.
Right.
Are you just looking at your reflection?
No, yeah, because I was making the left hand, right hand,
and they're
back and forth,
inverted. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I just really remember which side's which. Doesn't matter. But go ahead.
No, it doesn't. What was I saying?
Light in the darkness, and that person can have a spot in that spectrum.
Oh yeah. So I was just saying that not to be so hard on yourself for being conscious enough to notice that you're in the. Be proud of the fact that you're like, okay, I'm at my lowest point. Only way it goes up. Know that, because the worst,
and no one looking over your shoulder. That's there's where that leads to.
And by contrast, also sometimes when I do get manic, that's when I feel the need to meditate. Where I'm like, I'm getting too hyped, or sometimes I'm getting too not cynical, naive. I'm getting too naive.
Right.
I'm getting too
maybe too lackadaisical.
Yeah, that maybe I need.
I'm the same way.
I need to feed that shadow a little bit. What's the shadow think of this situation? Maybe I'm a little too glass half full. Maybe I think people are taking advantage of me. That is a very useful part. People always talk in these absolutes. They're like, if we just get rid of ISIS, if we get rid of this, if we get rid of leftists, it's like, no, you need that. You just want it to be in a balanced, healthy place. You don't want to get rid of it. It makes you stronger.
Nothing goes without some sort of push, and the push is that whole. It's like what makes a tree grow. It's like what makes a seed sprout in order to grow into this big tree that produces. It's like that little thing that starts from nothing, basically, is what it all is, and it grows, and it's like these tentacles that go in all different directions, and all different angles, and all different symmetries, and all different.
It's not meant to go. Sometimes it hits a rock and it encounters
issues. It's like water.
Issues.
Water. I always say, look to nature. If you want to learn about yourself and the universe, just look to nature. If you can't see it in yourself, look to nature. Look at what water does. Water seeks the path of least resistance. That's what humans do. That's what everything does.
Someone just posted recently on my feed. It was a picture of the branches on a tree, and it was put right next to a spectrogram of lung. And they were almost identical. And the caption they put is, "We breathe in what they breathe out." And the parallelism in nature is marvelous,
Look at bees and flowers. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
The pollinators.
The honeycombs and
There's a whole insect world that is thriving that we don't even see. We walk across it every day. It's underneath our feet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's so many
layers.
layers.
All the levels of energy expressing itself.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is.
And then energy expressed itself to create a being that could understand that energy itself. Amazing.
To get back to the concept of light, I think it is what you find to value as beautiful, and if you can see those bees and ants and whatever as beautiful. I see so many people. They're like, kill it. I'm like, why kill it? Is it eating my food? No.
Right.
Is it harming me?
Right. It's all about management to me. I don't like killing things just for killing things.
No.
It's a waste. It's wasteful, and in general.
But if there's a fly in my room that is making
I try to get it out. Yeah.
I'll kill it. I don't even mind killing it.
Listen, I took care of one the other day. I hate to do this, but this is what I like. Spiders. If I can save it, I'll take it outside. And this thing for me, Listen, I have no problem. This could turn into a whole vegan conversation, which we can have on another day. But to me, it's like the basic point is the nature shows you what's going on inside you and what's going on everywhere. Yeah. And if you follow its lead, a lot of times it'll give you hints on how to manage this morass. Right. And that's what it comes down to is management, your energy management, your power that you have, that energy. This is why at nighttime it's a sacred serenity time for you to allow yourself to
recover,
sleep and recover and recharge. A lot of people can't do it. They lay awake and they worry about everything and anything possible. And
I only slept a few hours last night, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it's okay. It happens.
Yeah. I'm just saying, for instance, I just had
it happens. Like sometimes I sleep soundly, other times I'm up and rolling around. It's okay. I'm just saying in general, everybody needs to understand if they want for a well-being type of life that point is given to you for you to recharge your battery. So treat it sacred, appreciate it, and don't try to rush too much to the next day. Right. Don't try to rush and hurry it up. Everybody wants to hurry to the next thing.
Yeah.
I got it tomorrow. I got something tomorrow. What about now?
I have another lesson to share in response to your lesson, because that's where we were.
Right.
I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned recently was to treat my time as valuable as I want it to be. Because I think that's one thing a lot of people struggle with is obviously some people think their time is way more valuable than it actually is to people.
Right.
And by some contrast, there's some people who have very valuable time, but they don't treat it so. They
Right.
they give it freely they give their attention to social media.
They don't
just-
realize it, so it picks away.
Or people that drain too much of their energy, they go on a whim at their beck and call.
Yep.
To be more conscious, this is a reminder I give to myself, is just to be aware of that. And
And
don't
when people
just
ask
react.
you of your time,
Yeah.
don't react. Go, let me think about that.
Yeah.
Be okay. Be okay with saying I can't. Let me give you an
I don't
answer
know.
later.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I'll let you know.
Well,
That
there's a
because
couple
what
times.
we want to do. It's a good
perfect
intention.
example.
You wanna-
Just
you
this
wanna be
podcast.
a pleaser. You know?
Just this podcast, I had a couple times where disparity came in. I was like, oh, maybe Steve doesn't want to do it.
Right.
In my own head,
Right.
And I was just like, no, that's ridiculous. He's just a busy guy. We just need to synchronize and get on the same page.
got it.
I'm glad we got it, but it's funny how the mind can play tricks on you.
It does.
To
It's
be
in
like-
there. It's in there. It's that little thing that's making you. Are you sure you want to do that? It's the little thing that's giving you options, and sometimes it gives you way too many options.
Yeah. It's that sand in the clam that makes the pearl. It's that little thing that irritates you enough to the point where it grows into something that ends up benefiting you, is the way I look at it a lot of times.
Well, it's a continual checks and balance system
Yeah.
of your own, of who you want to be, the character you're trying to aim for,
Yeah.
your statue you're trying to refine. And what does that look like if you drew it down on paper? It'd be a bunch of choices: yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And what does that look like? The branches of a tree.
Yeah.
It's all related. It's all the lungs.
interrelated.
All it is.
Yeah.
It's all that. It's going, man. It's going. That's what sacred geometry does. It creates that. Stop. No, go over here. Go over here. Go over here. And that's what we do. And that's what we have to be in tune with. Okay, this didn't work out. Okay, so the only reason I know it didn't work out is because I tried it. And if I wouldn't have tried it, I would have known it never worked out. So I wouldn't be able to use that experience to help me with these other experiences.
We're just free flowing energy, and we got to find the path of least resistance.
Yeah, we gotta not take this so serious. Easy.
Oh yeah.
God,
Well,
everybody's.
if you give up the first time, I mean, I guess one of the best things I've learned as becoming an adult is just because something doesn't work the first time, they normally don't. It's your resolve is being tested. It's like, how many times are you willing to fail at this to see if it will work? Because there's been so many times as a kid, like I'd try something once, I'd be like, oh, can't do it, Dad. How do you do it? And my dad would be like, what are you talking about? Let's figure it out yourself. You know?
Exactly. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So last question. I think we're probably getting to the end here. Because it's going on noon. I don't know how you doing on time.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. It's about time to let's just finish up the last one.
We can wrap it up. So last question
this will
is,
give us some for doing something more in the future.
Yeah, that's the thing. We could always do it again, and I think now that we've done it once, you kind of get a flow for how it's going to be.
Yeah, no,
it'll probably
cool.
be easier to do again. So, would you rather be the smartest person in a world full of dumb people, or the dumbest person in a world full of smart people?
Well, that's another one where I feel that I'm such in the mode of I accept what is. I would accept whatever it is.
That's
it's hard
fair.
for me to say because I'm so trying to just stay in that zone. It's hard for me to make a decision. So knowing too much is as bad as knowing nothing.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, because if you, like I've said before, I think I mentioned, if you want to defeat the devil, don't tell him you're trying to do it.
That's
because
that's his job. It's the devil. The devil has to announce his evil before he does it.
Right. So the concept, I think before, I don't know who said it or where it was a Buddha, Zen Buddhism thing. It said, when I first got into looking into Zen Buddhism, mountains were mountains, trees were trees, and rivers were rivers. But then when I got into Zen Buddhism, learning about it, they became something else. But then after I learned enough Zen Buddhism, I realized that mountains were mountains, trees were trees, and rivers were rivers. So you can freaking overthink it.
Yeah.
And then it becomes nothing means anything, and then just ignore it. Goes back to the singularity before it split.
I think what it is, it's teaching yourself a new mentality but realizing that nothing changed, only your way of perceiving it did.
Right, true.
You
And what
know?
you essentially do, if you overthink something, you come back to this beginning again.
Yeah.
You go back to the egg. You go back to basically, I know
The
nothing then.
the,
Nothing
the
exists.
docile screaming, ah,
Right,
baby,
right, right.
baby, that all I know is cry. I can't do anything else.
Here's something I learned not too long ago. I appreciate when it comes to this type of thing. When I think about how everything works, the electromagnetic field of the Earth, the heart muscle works on the same exact principle. If you look at the electromagnetic field of the heart, it actually goes from the center down out the bottom and up around the outside and back in the top again. That's exactly how the electromagnetic field of the Earth works. And what that's doing is that field does that for this reason, because it's a sequential firing order of 7 different muscles that are basically wrapped like a fist. They go around each other, and the
Yeah.
heart doesn't pump; it ventricles, it squeezes. It goes from
I've
wide to a smaller process. Okay, so my point
Yeah.
to this is that process is done in that electromagnetic field, which the Earth is the electromagnetic field. So it's all related, and it's that when you think things through too much, you are going from I know nothing, to I know everything, I know way too much, and now I know nothing
back
again.
down. Yeah.
That's what we're
And
doing.
that's
So stop somewhere
well,
and
and
ground
that's
yourself.
the best thing I learned about Eastern philosophy in general. That concept is the fact that you can't. I feel like a lot of Western thought is about absolution and
Right.
stagnancy. It's
Right,
finding
right. It's black
finding
and white.
truth and
Everything's black
that,
and white.
The thing I learned that just opened up so much just information flowing in my head, which is the idea is nothing needs to be static.
Right.
Things
No.
can things
Nothing
can
is.
it's like planting a buoy in the ocean. If you go back to that same spot, it's probably not going to be there. There's a flow to it. And the thing is, nothing about that buoy changed. It's still the same fucking buoy.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just went to a different spot, and you just
Right.
need to reorient your mapping to
Yes.
know where it's at.
Yes,
Because if
yes.
you keep looking in the same
Recalculating
location,
route.
yeah,
Recalculating
if
route.
you keep going back to the same location thinking it's going to be there, good luck. And that's
Right.
part of the journey. That's one of the things that they preach in Eastern is not being frustrated in the Western form of thought, because you go back to a thought. It's like, well, I can't think that way again. It's like, yeah, that's the beauty of it. You get to rediscover it again every
Right.
time.
Right, right,
Like
right.
I've had these discussions with people before. I'm sure you have, but I'm guessing from your tone of voice and everything that you enjoy it just as much as I do, because realistically, I don't think either of us really probably learned too much as we confirmed a lot of thoughts that we share, and that
Right.
in it of itself is a very useful thing, I think. And
No, it is.
I'm glad
It's good to understand that concept.
yeah, I'm glad we got about 2 hours in of a lot of stuff I've meant to
Yeah, I
vibe with
hope-
you on, and
Somebody that watches this can walk away with some sort of better understanding about themselves, or not. You know, like I always say, whenever I speak and say these things, I just
Yeah.
feel as I'm like a stream along the trail that you're walking on in life. And if you want to drink from it and you want to say, well, okay, or
Yeah.
you want to say, fuck that, or
Yeah.
you want to just go, hey, yes, some good stuff. I like that. Give me more.
Yeah.
It's up to you. I'm not here to make anybody else happy or sad or
the
solve all
stream,
their
the
problems.
stream
but-
doesn't market itself to you.
Right.
You know,
What's
it's
that?
just the stream doesn't market itself to you.
Right,
It's
that's
just
what-
there.
Right, exactly. And it's
Yeah.
not to say that, it's the same concept of divine in the light. You remember there's a concept where if you were in a dark room and you open up the door with the light on the outside, the light comes into the dark. It doesn't work the other way around.
Yeah, that's true.
So you are hungering for the light, because the light, man, that's where it's at.
That's where it's at. Yeah, that's
But life drags us back. So
Yeah.
just know that we're all going through it. Try to be a little more patient with your fellow human being at times, even if they irritate you, piss you off, because really all that is your reaction.
Oh.
Don't let them get
I
into
remember.
your head.
I finally remember the quote I was going to tell you
Oh,
before.
good. Oh, perfect. What a great way to end.
Yeah. It's because this is actually a piece of this blew. You ever had those epiphany moments that just blow your mind? I had
Yep.
this years ago. Someone told me, parents are just kids having kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it's
That's
such a
great one.
simple
It's true.
concept.
It
When you
is,
break
it
it
is.
down, that's all it is.
Yeah,
And
right.
the thing is, it's
And-
funny, as the oldest of all my cousins, and I've had the chance to interact with people younger than me, and I tell them that, and they're just like, "Whoa!" Like every
Yeah.
time I get this,
Right.
Whoa,
Nobody
moment.
was given like an
'Cause
instruction book.
One of the
They
things
just
adults
learned from
don't
what
want
they
to tell
learned.
kids that. A parent doesn't
Right.
want to tell their kids, "I'm just a kid trying to figure this out." They want to seem like this authoritarian, divine God figure. And I
Right.
think that understanding, having the empathy at a certain level, I think more in teenage years, you don't want you don't want to know everything your parents dealing with when you're really young.
Right, right.
But at a certain age, you want to understand that they're a peer. They're working through all the same issues
Right.
you are, and that just humanizes everyone across the board.
Oh, you're exactly right.
You
And
know?
just the same way, like, I have this new experience with raising children now that my fiance has, which has been challenging to say the least. But it helped me bring full circle the experiences I had when I was a kid to know
Yeah.
that my parents were as young as I was trying to raise me. And they made mistakes and they did some things I wish they would have done differently. But now I can know that I will not do those same things with these children. And I know from their point of view to try to help them on their journey rather than follow it my way or the highway.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Well,
They're
and
humans. They
the
have
funny thing is
independent
in your
ideas.
circumstances, you have the right to do whatever you want. Realistically, it's
Right,
not your
right.
progeny, but the fact that you're stepping up and still trying to do your best is just
Right.
a testament to your ethic, your morality. You know,
Well, I just feel if I don't.
think of how
I'd like to cut-
easy and lazy you could be if you wanted to. You know,
True. Oh no, no, no. There's no doubt about it. And
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people that take that route.
They
And
do.
I know what it produces. It produces damaged individuals
It does.
that need to work on themselves, and then they can't explore their own passions. They're too busy working
Yeah.
on their the whatever damage they're carrying around.
Yeah.
And then when they finally figure that out, then they can follow their passions and their heart and their dreams, because you can't discover what those are when you're dealing with damage. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
you don't
and-
want to
and-
continue the damage going forward.
I'm so happy to see all the pictures you have. I can tell you love your fiance, and the best
Yeah.
way to express that is through what she loves herself. You know,
Right,
it's that
right.
that idea of just being, well, I'm just the boyfriend. It's
Right.
an interesting concept. You know.
Well, I figured from day one, when I decided to embark on this mission when we first started dating, is that
Yeah.
I thought to myself, this is a different thing that I never had the opportunity to do because I
Yeah.
can't have kids, and for medical reasons, which is fine.
Sure.
I'm over that, so it's not even an issue. But I never had the ability. So now that there's these two lives now, that
Yeah.
I know I have a voice that I can lend some experience to them that'll make their lives a lot easier than my life was, and that's gives me great accomplishment and a goal to help them
Well,
along
and hopefully
the
they
struggles
teach
that I
you.
know they're going to reach,
Yeah.
and they have. Oh, they already
I was gonna
have.
say, hopefully they
Oh my
teach you
God.
too.
Oh my God.
Not just the sense of accomplishment of
The
what
whole
you're
situation,
creating,
yeah.
but I'm
Yes.
sure they also are creating something within you, not just what
Right.
you're creating within them.
But I was yearning for something more than where 'cause I was single for many years, and I
Yeah.
just was like felt like I said an empty kind of existence at times. I had
Yeah.
a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I did a lot of interesting things, but when this situation happened, this is an experience I never thought I had the opportunity to have. And then, as challenging as it's been, and difficult and frustrating
Yeah.
at times, which I freely acknowledge, I have really grown to love it, and I love the kids, and I'm just happy to be here with them and be part of the experience. And I look forward to, continue the journey in this little clan that we've all decided
Yeah.
to be.
Well,
That's what's cool.
I'm like I said, I'm so happy for you. I mean, ultimately, I think a fatherhood, whether it's biological or otherwise, I think one of the greatest aspirations for any man is whether
I
you're a
think so,
coach,
too.
whether you're a teacher, whether you're anything,
Right.
a mentor. I think that being able to fulfill that role is
Yeah.
that's close to godlyhood.
Well, it is. That's part of the purpose of being here is to
Yeah.
recreate and keep the growth going, so the next generation can grow in their way, and the next generation in a positive way. And it's never going to be perfect.
Did you see the
It's
movie
not supposed to-
Coco? Actually, it's
No, COCO. Is
CO,
that what that?
it's also on
that-
Netflix.
At 8.
No. That's the Day of the Dead. That's the Day of the Dead Disney Pixar movie.
Oh, it's called Coco.
It's just called Coco. The grandmother.
COCO.
Yeah, the grandmother's name is Coco.
Okay, that's interesting. I remember that there was that gorilla named Coco or something.
No, I don't know. Oh,
Wasn't
yeah,
there a
yeah,
girl
yeah,
on
yeah,
there?
yeah.
I
There's
thought maybe
there's
it
the
was a
gorilla,
documentary.
and they gave her a kitten. Yeah, they gave her a kitten. And
Yeah,
then,
right.
Then they let the kitten die, and then she was.
right.
They taught Coco sign language.
Yeah,
they,
so
they,
it could express
so
how
it could express how it
heartbroken it
feels, and then they gave it a kitten so it could express its happy feelings, and then it
Right.
died
Yeah,
because I
right.
think it escaped and got run over by a car. It's like
Yeah.
the most sad circumstances.
Right, it's like Coco didn't need this experience.
No.
It's like we decided, hey, I know you're enjoying your life as a gorilla and don't really, we're going to teach you ways to tell us how you can suffer like us.
Yeah, not only are we gonna bestow you the idea of pets and being this mother,
Right.
because it was a female gorilla, so it had that motherhood. Let's confuse you and teach you how to express your confusion on top of it.
Exactly. And then when you have sadness and sorrow, come on, give it to us. We got the cameras rolling. We didn't play all this time. We need to see that suffering, Coco. Give it up.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was talking about Coco the movie. And just real quick, without ruining the movie, obviously, is in the movie, there's a boy who goes to the land of the dead. It's like Day of the Dead Mexican mythology kind of thing. And what happens?
It's not like an anime thing.
It's animated. Yeah, it's an animated movie.
I think I did see them like that.
The music was phenomenal. The music to it was great. But the concept to it is like there's an afterlife where if your family remembers you, you get to exist in this afterlife. But the moment people stop praying for you, essentially remembering your legacy, is the moment you fade away into nothingness. And to me, I think that's a very practical way of looking at things, actually. If you want to be this spiritual atheist, that's at least a good reference point to be like, you know what, maybe there is no God. But at the end of the day, I'm interacting with these people, and they are passing on my stories, my legacy, my lineage. And
I'm leaving awake.
You can think, you can think of that in a very possessive way. But if you look at it as this is what I'm providing to the system, ultimately, that's why it's one of my favorite movies.
Well, it sounds like it sounds like a great movie, and I will check it out. It's like just brings up the thought though to me that why do so many people spend so much money on leaving gravestones behind?
Yeah.
And if you ever do through Lakeview Cemetery here in the Cleveland area, or by Coventry, to those of you that aren't from this area, you would know it. But have you ever been through there?
Yeah, you're talking like the huge...
It's off of Mayfield Road.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I used to live in that area. I was driving my motorcycle. I still go through there every now and then because it's a nice ride through there. And it occurred to me as I looked and saw these unimaginable count of plates, and they ran of headstones, markers. Yeah. Everything ranged from a little tiny plate to these giant monolithic, unbelievable.
Some people like to make the obelisks.
All that. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I thought to myself, what an ego trip. Yeah. No matter where you are in the spectrum.
As a kid, when I visited enough cemeteries as a kid. I visited enough cemeteries as a kid where by the time I had the idea to have this conscious thought of like acknowledging my own death, I instantly was like, I want to be cremated. The last thing I want is this vanity fair for myself.
I get that people want a place to go visit and have a memorial. That I do get that concept. I don't want to be harsh on that because it does bring peace to people when they can go to a place.
I think we have a modern day luxury though.
Right.
And the fact that we have pictures, we have Facebook.
We absolutely do.
We have, honestly, part of what I do this podcast is I know that if and when I die, this will still be here. This will still be here. Like these thoughts,
our ideas, our thoughts, right?
Yeah, because one thing that weighed on me heavily when I first started this is like, oh, my family's not even watching my podcast. I'm like, you know what? They will eventually.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Just because they haven't seen it, I recorded a month.
A lot of times people don't have time.
Yeah, I recorded a month ago. Why do they have to watch it within that month I just recorded it?
Right.
I'll maybe 4 years from now they finally get a chance, and it's like a time capsule. I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. You know.
Right, exactly. Well, I think as long as we bring up like good subjects and make it interesting, people will want to listen to it. If we just talk like we're on the phone, I think people will be like, "Oh, I'm just listening in on their conversation."
Yeah, that's why
we're bringing up good concepts, and these are things that can actually help people. And it's not, and maybe it's a little egotistical to think it can help people, but this is what I've learned. This is what you've learned so far in this existence, and we're sharing it based on.
I want to acknowledge the audience because as of right now, YouTube says there's 4 people watching, so I know I'm at least one of them. I don't know if you're one of them as well.
I'm probably one of them too.
There you go. So we probably have 2 people watching. Well, and I said this before last time. I encourage chat. I know I'm big on YouTube. I follow a lot of YouTubers, and I like interacting with them. I'm understanding the concept that most people aren't invested in YouTube as I am and understand the concept of live streaming and interacting. Right. But I just want to say it at the end of every episode. Chime in, annoy me, be like, hold up, why'd you say that? Why'd you do this?
Right. Oh, I love that. Engage. Interaction will make the show much more.
That's why I want to. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's my goal for this live stream. I don't want it to just be you and I. I'd like it to be you and I and anyone watching.
If I may, by the way,
go for it.
Since we're talking about YouTube, give a shameless plug.
Oh, I was about to say.
I'm going to be launching a YouTube channel, and it's starting. I think it's called Mandatory Martini.
Okay.
So
I think you just liked me. So
yeah, I did.
You're about to get another subscriber.
Thank you. And it's basically going to be mostly satirical comedy, George Carlin-esque type of
Oh,
stuff,
George Carlin's my man. I love
Yeah, I
irony.
love it. I mean, I'd hate to use him as an example, but I'm not gonna. Listen. Both parties are fucked up. I want to talk about it. I want to laugh about it. I want to make jokes about. I want to make jokes about just general things I see on a regular basis that I say in my head and crack me up so freaking hard. If I just spit this out to people, I think they'll have a good time. Plus, I
Hey,
just do funny things. So,
I'll be one of your first fans, man.
oh, great. Well, I'm just about to release my first video, which I did. I'm doing a different concept. I'm taking part of a Snapchat video and I'm morphing it into an edited video that I've used
Interesting.
other background elements in to make it more deep.
Okay.
Uh, so I'm going to try something here with it, just instead of just doing, because I love the Snapchat filters. I think they're hilarious.
Oh yeah.
And I know those won't be around forever, but I want to get, so what I do is when I get a chance, I go on the Snapchat and I get a filter and I say some stuff into it and I just save it for later. That's
Yeah, yeah.
something funny, something makes me laugh. I want to do something. So I have content. And I'm going to take that content and then morph it into a video that I can put on YouTube. And then eventually I'd like to do some stand-up stuff. So
I actually
fun
stand up
things.
is a long term goal for me. I don't think I'm ready for it yet because
Ooh, good. Well,
I'm
let's help each other out.
yeah, I'm overly well. I'm still 27, so I still think I have a shot. I think I've seen
You got
plenty.
more than everybody does. I
I've
don't care
seen
what age you're.
plenty. I've seen plenty of comics start in their 40s and 50s. So
Right. Well, I'm 48 just as a couple days ago, so here I go.
there you go, man. Oh, I didn't realize you were. No offense, that old. I thought you were like
Yeah.
early 40s.
Thank you. No, I just
You
got turned
for
40.
48, you look fantastic.
I have a young face, I've been told.
Well, I was
Hide
just,
it all the inside. The
I
inside
was
is
just
always
bartending
yeah.
recently. I'm not bartending at that bar anymore, but I had people, are you even old enough to make a drink? I'm like, yes,
That's
motherfucker.
good. Hey, own that because
I
that used
know.
to drive me crazy at your age too. Until I realized, hey, this is cool. I'm keeping my young look for a long
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
eventually, I'm worried I'm just going to wake up in the morning and all of a sudden it's all going to hit me like that.
Oh, once
Face app, right?
the face app. Yeah, yeah.
Get it,
Face app will hit you.
And I see what I look like, and I'm like, oh boy, I better get some fun now because there's a wall coming.
Yeah.
It
Well,
looked like it. Anyway, so yes, join me on that channel. That's where I'm going to be releasing all my content. Eventually, the Facebook page I'm working on in the background that'll be released, and eventually a website. And then I will start. I got some routines I'm going to be putting together, and I might do some pre-release stuff. We'll see. Everything
yeah,
it'll be
that's
fun.
awesome.
I can tell you this.
Just
you will,
make sure you send me the links you want, and I'll put them in the description. So
Okay.
to the audience, follow those links, like and subscribe if you like Steve.
Please.
Steve Martini, Mandatory Martini is the name.
That's right.
He has a lot of great content. Looking forward to a lot more of it.
Bitches.
Namastizzle. I actually was trying to read it before. I couldn't read it before.
It's one of my
Namastizzle.
favorite shirts. I got this on Amazon of all places, but
Oh,
it's
that's
just so
fantastic.
funny to me.
I
It's like takes the Zen thing and just kind of like at the same time laughs at it.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I
like-
think that's one of
it's
the most
good.
important things. Like you said,
Right.
satire is he taking something true and giving a little ridicule to it to ground
I
it.
just know this. I have been making videos since I was a kid and making funny things ever since. And I told you that story about my dad making those tapes. He inspired
yeah.
to make our own tapes into. I used to do, and I thought to myself, what am I doing? I worked in a corporate office. I did this, did that. It's like that. I need to entertain, and I have
Yeah.
the ability. So why am I keeping it all to myself?
Well,
Not to sound like an egotist, but I have to embrace what I am.
that's one of the goals of what I'm trying to do too. Is I see what's on television, I see what's on X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, there's got to be something better, and I think I can do
Right.
it. I think I can.
I'm with you, brother. Hey, I look forward to seeing our journey unfold together.
Yeah, man. Well, I think on that
Settle
note,
with that.
we'll wrap it up. It's been fantastic.